TOPLOBSTA Productions.
We are being hypnotized by people like this. Newsreaders, politicians, teachers, lecturers. We are in a country and in a world that is being run by unbelievably sick people. The chasm between what we're told is going on and what is really going on is absolutely enormous.
Oh yeah, dude. There's some Nephilim.
It's like we all know what's going down, but no one's saying shit what happened to the home of the brave. These motherfuckers, they controlling us now, and no one's talking about how they made us finally slaves. And everybody's just walking around, head in the clouds, and won't awaken to a dead in the grave. But then it's too late, we need to be ready to raise up. Welcome to the end of days.
Everybody is slaves, only some are aware that the government releasing poison in there.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Nephilim Death Squad. I am David Lee Corbo, a.k.a. The Raven. That is TOPLOBSTA.
We're here. We're 6 minutes late.
Dude, we're crushing. That's early.
Crazy.
That's very early. 6 minutes early. What was I going to say? TOPLOBSTA, the father of disinformation. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, sometime around the 30-minute mark, we're going to go live exclusively to patreon.com///Nephilim Death Squad. You can enjoy the rest of this episode, engage in the live chat, gain early access to the rest of our backlogged episodes, as well as early access to Bohemian Grove tickets and discount codes off of merchandise from toplobsta.com. They are there. You guys just got to go to collections and click the drop down and you'll see all the options. You can pick up the super dope merchandise that awaits you over there. How about the MK Ultra? It's actually kind of apt for today and a little bit about what we're going to be talking about given the discussion we had pre-show. Maybe we should start recording the pre-show, huh? Free range MK Ultra chickens, and we just had a little bit of a situation, and these MK Ultra programs, they kind of fit in. So if you want everybody to know that you're at the cutting edge of conspiracy theory, then toplobsta.com is for you. Go and pick up your super dope merch, guys. Joining us today, once again, a couple of fan favorites, and one of them is deep NDS lore. We have Jerry Marzinsky and Bryan of Demon Erasers. Guys, I want you to introduce yourselves. The audience already knows who you guys are, but let's just beat that drum again and let them know where they can find your work. Let's start with Jerry.
Well, I'm Jerry Marzinsky. I've been studying the schizophrenic voices for probably 45 years. I've worked on the front lines of mental health for more than that time. I've now got a private clinical practice using something called the MACE Energy Method, which actually psychological problems. And I've been looking for something like that my entire life, and it showed up. It was invented in Australia. It's an energetic psychotherapy. It's not anything like a regular psychotherapy. So I was thrilled to have found it. I went and got certified in it, and I'm working with people right now in it. And surprisingly, it will a number of times get rid of the voices that schizophrenics hear. Not all the time, especially depending on how deeply they're taken over. But it will get rid of that these negative entities feed off of. So even if it doesn't get rid of the voices, it takes the food that they feed off of.
I love it. Jerry's like, I am Jerry. This is how we solve this thing.
I like that.
Like right into
I like
it, man.
that. Well, I mean, it's hugely important. Where can people find that programming? It was the MACE what?
It's called the MACE Energy Method. They can read about that. I've made some videos on it on my website at jerrymarzinsky.com.
Oh, jerrymarzinsky.com. Okay, great. We just had that
we
one
just
pulled
showed
up.
that up. But
The other thing, it's very fast. I mean, within an hour, I'm running into like 70-year-old people who had something happened to them when they were 7, 8 years old, and they came to the conclusion that something was bad wrong with them, that they were useless or worthless.
Yep.
And that they lived their whole life with that idea. And in an hour that was gone. They were free of it.
That's incredible.
It's interesting. It's interesting how Let's introduce Brian.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
sorry.
Brian,
keep
let
going,
everybody
guys.
know. Well, I mean, we're just gonna say it's interesting that, especially the what the medical industry does. It's like, no, this isn't an hour long fix. This is a lifelong ailment that you will be dependent on the medical industry for the rest of your life. You got to take these pills. You got to be sedated. You have to walk around like a zombie in order to have any hope of functioning like a normal human being in
It's
society.
not just that. It's interesting how we were talking pre-show how Brian and Jerry arrive in the same junction as us through all different ways and walks of life.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how the healing or the solution to this issue is, I mean, there are multiple solutions for it. It's a spiritual issue.
It is.
But Jerry is fixing this, I mean, in a sort of physical manner, which is something that like I've experienced just with my wife. We have went the route of Brian will, if we'll tell you the story. If we get into it, man, let's just get into the show. I'm so sorry. We're all over the place.
Brian, where can everybody find you and your work at Demon Erasers?
Yeah, it's all just Demon Erasers, demonerasers.com. I have a group of people that pray for people. You can go there at the bottom of the page. People sign up and pray for people. I also have a movie. That's my movie right there, Ancient Angels, which is talking about Nephilim stuff, because that's actually a lot of what I spent my life studying was history of the Nephilim and what the Nephilim are and where they went and what these fallen angels that we commonly perceive as demons, which turns out probably aren't all demons, but there's a lot more to that. And yeah, you just go to Demon Erasers on YouTube. I've got a Ancient Angels podcast going on the live channel, and there's Demon Erasers TikTok, Instagram. It's all pretty pretty much the same, just Demon Racers and then Ancient Angels on everything. And yeah, just kind of that's where you can find my stuff. But like, what I do is like pray for people, and like just like Jerry, like we pray for people and we cast out demons and heal people and deal with a lot of people that have conditions that most society would just brush away and say, oh, they're schizophrenic, or oh, they're this, or the rejects of our society. We deal with these conditions and help these people heal from them, which is not something that like obviously Jerry mentioned, like the medical industry just shoves you in a corner and gives you a bunch of that are not, but like they are indeed demons. They're entities. These are demons that are real. They are not figments of their imagination. They're intelligent, bro. They talk through people. They know things about you. Yeah, they're sneaky. They're aware of stuff. They know different languages. Like it just and so like when me and Jerry met and started talking, like we were just like, bro, what about this and this and this and this? And it was just it's such a cool to find someone else that understands what because like a lot of people
actually I'm looking at both of you guys right now, and in a weird sci-fi world, like that's you in the future. Almost like has self-presence.
It's really funny because I'm like I reach out to Brian and I'm like, hey, you want to come on the show? You pick the topic. And he's like, there's a number of things we could talk about.
He said, I'll only do it if Jerry comes.
Well, no, he recommended that. And I was like, that's an option, dude. Like, we could have both of you guys on the show at the same time. Your work is hugely important. Obviously, a massive crossover. It's the same thing, really. But given the beating that the Western medical system has been taking over the past few years, let's say like 5 years, and everybody knows what the inception of it was. I looked over the other day, RFK is talking about they know what the source of is, and we can imagine where that's going to go. Sure. Things are not doing all right, and the mental health quadrant of the medical industry is it's been the biggest embarrassment for the longest time. Schizophrenic people are without help. I mean, like just without help. Either they're sedated or they're lost to the streets. Everybody knows this is a personal situation. I have an aunt who is schizophrenic, and she's lost to the wind these days. She's been in and out of halfway houses and things of that nature. So
let's get into like just hop into this first subject here, because this is going to be a banger episode. Like what they have prepared for us is insane. But I
almost want to get this out of the way.
Yeah, let's get this out the way. So we had another, mash, which is just honestly, I kind of desensitized to it. But
that's the energy that you say it with. Like we had another mash, guys. I don't know if you're aware.
That guy was driven by demons. I've heard some of his talk, and he was demon possessed.
Well, check this out, Jerry. So we'll watch a little bit of the video if you guys want, but so this is from Sovereign Bra. We'll give some credit. Drew a picture of himself as Baphomet and described demonic forces controlling him in his journal. And what he draws here, yeah, look at this. It's him looking into a mirror, and there's some like I guess Russian writing, but he's looking into it. This is what he's seeing.
Yeah, feels a little sensationalized to say it's Baphomet. I mean, it's kind of your classic image of a demon, but I'll give him that one. That's fine. But yeah, this guy is obviously this is a representation of how he's seeing himself, and you could take that on a metaphorical level, as I'm so sure so many people do. But
wait, show me that again. Show me that again.
Yeah, go ahead, bring that back up.
1 sec.
What was the writing? I wanted to see the writing at the bottom.
Well, the
do you
writing
speak Russian?
No, it's not Russian. That's that's psychotic scribbling.
Yeah, right down at the bottom.
Really?
At the bottom.
Looks like
Go to the
right
bottom.
beneath his feet.
Okay, so that stuff at the bottom, that's demonic sigilling. So like that's, you know, it could come off as some other language, but that does not look like a language. That to me looks exactly like what demons write. When people that are demon possessed, they write stuff that looks just like that.
Fascinating.
I don't know, Jerry, have you ever experienced that ever? Like,
matter of fact, I have some pictures of it somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. The stuff at the top looks like
seen.
Yeah, the stuff at the top looks like writing, but that bottom text is sigilling.
Whoa.
So
here we go. Jerry's pulling from his extensive library of backlogged information.
Jerry, yeah, here's your full screen here. Let's see.
Okay, here's pictures. This is one schizophrenic.
Yeah, jeez.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Let me get another one here. This guy was drawing a painting of what he felt like.
It's
Wow.
honestly a beautiful
you can
painting.
see that.
Wow.
Let me see what else I got here.
So you're saying like the way that it would be like lined up almost like incoherently and
yeah, I've seen pages and pages of.
Look at that, the Messiah. It's funny.
How do you like that, Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very,
Look at the upside down
very,
cross on the guy's forehead.
Yeah.
It's very, very akin to many of the things I've seen as well.
Before the show, Jerry was saying that these things really don't like religion, but it's interesting because a lot of the theme is, and we understand why now. It's because it is a spiritual war that they're engaged in. But as much as they don't like religion, they don't like Psalms 23. You were talking about that, Jerry. They react like worms on a frying pan when it's read to them. Them being the schizophrenic patients. Oftentimes the themes of the language they're using, what they're describing, the things that ail them, they have a massively religious bent to them, and it's pretty evident in those images there.
Yeah, they do not like anything religious. That's one of the patterns they run. Here's some of the, I can try to read some of that. I don't think it's going to make much sense.
Yeah, that seems. So I'm going to explain what that is real quick. And if you notice, I'll tell you guys some of the stuff involved in what this is. So demons don't write their names in spelling. Okay, they don't write their names in words. They write their names in symbols. Okay, they're called sigils. So demons will draw symbols that's how you conjure them. And so a lot of times you'll see amongst the writings of schizophrenic people, like somewhere on the page, you'll see that like a little pattern design. That's the signature of the demon that's usually possessing the person. You'll see a little star looking thing or some weird little thing with loops.
Now you're speaking. Look at this one's got a star up there now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, zoom in. Let me see
it.
See the star at the top?
Oh yeah, of course. They'll put a little star. They'll put a little. There's some on the bottom left. Oh, the bottom left of that page right there, down the side. That looks just like the lettering on that.
Yeah, the one that's going vertically down the side.
Yep, that one. So like,
wow.
That's you'll recognize it when you start to recognize demonic sigilling. You'll see it, and so they don't write their names always in long lines. Usually, it's at one spot. You'll see one spot. It'll almost look like a scribble. But you'll see it's like a pattern repeated over or something. That's usually the demonic sigil. And so they'll write their stuff, they'll write their name, they sign it, there's stuff down the side too. And if you scroll to the bottom like that, those symbols, those are sigils. Those aren't letters. They look like, obviously we look like them as letters today, but you know, those are sigils in there. And
Do you
so
think that
they're,
this writing is also like like not just a demonic, but like an angelic writing as well? Because in the book of Daniel, when was it Belshazzar? When Belshazzar,
when that ghostly hand shows up on the wall and starts writing stuff.
you know,
Yeah.
that's a very interesting thing. There is a correlation with writing and spiritual entities. There is some kind of correlation I've noticed. What's he got there?
Oh man, that looks like, honestly, when you see like a band T-shirt.
That's exactly what it's like with a band T-shirt for sure.
It's like a band T-shirt. Wow.
Yeah. They're trying to normalize you with a lot of these band T-shirts to like things that are cultic. But this language is called cursive. Okay, that's what it is. It's the cursing language. And so what people do is they would channel spirits, they zone out, and then they write stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
And when they write things, they write in the language of cursive. It's you don't pick up the pen, you scribble, and you let the entity control your hand. And oftentimes you like picking up the pen breaks the train of thought. That's why cursive is a continuous like scribble. And so a lot of the times you'll see in the schizophrenic writers, they get really good at it. They pick up the pen a lot, but that's because they're
to all the in the world. Good God.
Yeah, that's what it says.
To all. That's interesting because like some of the language that he was like using on his magazines and everything, where it was super. I don't know. There's like a spirit of a troll. An internet troll like embedded in some of these shooters, which is, you know, makes me look at my internet habits and go, what am I doing here?
Yeah, it's true.
It's true, right? It is. Why don't we bring up this video here, because I actually haven't had an opportunity to listen to this, and I felt left out. You guys were talking about it before the show started, and I was like,
I haven't seen it either.
All right, well, I guess I'll just give a warning to people who are gonna who are watching now, because whenever I watch stuff like this, I'm always like it's. I feel like I know what I'm interfacing with, and I don't particularly like it.
Yeah, so maybe we should describe it a little. This is the he's talking, you know, before the entire thing happens. He's having a dialogue.
We have to show it. They should, you know.
Well, I just wanted to know who it is they're about to listen to, and it was this that just committed this atrocity. So let's let her rip.
Okay, here we go.
I don't remember how far we went.
Yeah, it's sigilling in the middle of the page there.
I saw that, yeah.
That was sigils.
There's bugs in my skin.
There's bugs in my skin. That reminds me of Morgellons, which is...
So, yeah, he's flipping through his manifesto.
The sad part is people are going to try to read that, and I would recommend no one try to read that. I would just give you a heads up.
Okay, that's a good point. This is why, like, even watching.
Well, a lot of it is, I can see a lot of it is that same language that we saw written on the page. It's illegible.
Yeah.
There's spells mixed in there.
Yeah, don't read that.
And don't try to read that stuff, guys.
And the part that's really funny about this is that I'm watching the political dialogue on Twitter, and they're like, "Oh, and then you know the right wing is true. The left
about
wing's
your guns.
The guns, and I'm just like, dude, this is demons. Like this is what you're looking at right now.
And in my opinion, because of the way the patterns always emerge, it's not only demons, but it's government operations, intelligence operations,
demons.
Government demons. Yeah, these are. We talk often about MK Ultra and, you know, this dissociative identity disorder they're trying to impart on individuals through. They're doing that to people. They're opening these doorways so that they can become possessed, and then they're releasing them out into public, and then we have another disaster that takes place.
Yeah, these things hate kids. They hate children. And you look what the United States government has been doing. It's been the biggest operation on the planet until Trump got in there. I mean, you know, even the White House, they were bringing up from under the White House. You know, it was they hate kids, so they're trying to destroy the kids. When they grow up, they'll be warped and broken like they are.
Better vessels when they get them when they're younger. It becomes more traumatized, and then they have easier access to utilizing that person. You know, you mentioned MK Ultra, and I wanted to say something about and then shooters, but I want to see the rest of the video. I guess if we should
let's
watch the rest of it. Is that a Stussy symbol up there?
Yeah.
Kid from the He's in the wrong generation.
Is this the correct video? There might be more. There's some where he's like moving around and like he's reading everything he's written on his guns.
Oh, he
this might be
wrote
the
stuff
wrong one.
on his guns.
Well, really what we're trying to highlight, and this might be the wrong video, was the dialogue that he had with himself was very much like a tug of war between him and whatever's inhabiting him.
This isn't the same video. I'll search for that one.
Yeah,
they
see
might
if
have
you could
they might have
find it.
scrubbed it, but
he knows he's sick. You could see he wrote down, sick.
Well, these are things that I'm sure he's hearing in his own head because, Dr. Marzinsky, you've brought to our attention. It's
So
like one of the things they always do.
Look at this, doctor.
For the children, of course.
And then there's that geometric symbol beneath
Yep.
it. But
that's a sigil. That's a sigil.
Now that is allegedly associated with like a previous from years ago.
Really?
A lot of what he's putting on his magazines and his weapons are sort of homages to previous mass shooters as well. So it's
wow.
It's a messy situation. But Dr. Marzinsky, in a previous episode, you brought to our attention, it's like one of the patterns that these things adhere to is it's a constant degradation of the person's self-esteem, self-worth, right? You're worthless, you're sick, nobody loves you, you're irredeemable. And that flies right in the face of Christianity, which is redemption is achievable through Jesus Christ and his sacrifice for us. And it's like, yeah, they're attacking that constantly, right? There is no redemption. You are irredeemable. You are sick. You are worthless.
I have it here. It's 11 minutes, but we'll
see if you could scrub through it. Find an image of when he's by his guns, because that sounds like when it'll be.
This is actually his manifesto.
You can read that.
I wouldn't read it.
Yeah, definitely don't read it, guys.
Again,
there's some weird look. There's a
that's a signature of a demon.
Yeah, there's a signature. That's funny because in the what are allegedly like the lesser keys of Solomon or these sigils that they entrap demons in, a lot of them look like that, where they're not so symmetrical. They almost look like signatures.
Yeah. Yep.
And look, he throws bullets on the paper.
Yeah.
Look at him pouring the bullets.
Yep, that's definitely it. So this isn't even the kid right now, by the way. This is somebody else. This is an entity in control of this child.
No, Brian, 100% it is, because I don't know if we're going to be able to like isolate moments, but there are moments in this where he is arguing or protesting with the entity. And if you're not like keen to this, like people watch and they go, "Oh, this person's just sick," and I'm like, "Yeah," but he's like, it seems like he's pulling away and he's going like, "I don't want to do this."
Yeah.
And then the entity comes forward and it goes like, "Oh, we're gonna do it."
Yeah, doesn't it say like he's like, "I don't want to do this," and at one point it's like it's gonna be awesome or something like that. Like it tells him like, "Wow, it's gonna be awesome."
I can tell that that's the spirit in him right now.
Yeah.
And I remember watching one mental patient once arguing with the voices that she didn't want to leave the hospital grounds, and as she was walking off the hospital grounds, she was arguing with the entities. "I don't want to leave. I don't want to go. I'm going to get in trouble," as she continued to walk off the grounds.
Interesting.
Wow. So no control over their physical body, but their brain is like a passenger in it.
Look at this again, Top. Though here's some imagery associated with the troll, right? The trolling, the online troll. You have the troll face meme on this, and this is something that we've had to like tango with before, because admittedly, myself on the internet, I'm a bit of a troll. I just engaged with somebody the other day where I said, "Oh, this one is brutal." Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely a demon. Yeah. Definitely a demon.
Oh, here we go. This is probably what you're talking about.
Yes, I mean, the video is just him reading what he's written on all the weaponry here.
It's fascinating that he wrote these things because
that was his voices that were writing that stuff.
Yeah. That wasn't him. Yeah, it wasn't even him writing it.
It wasn't him.
Yeah.
See, but the judges in the courts don't believe in these evil spirits, even though they've run into it over and over and over again with the person saying, "I don't remember doing that. I didn't do it." And they said, "Yes, you did." And the guy would say, "Well, the voices did it."
Right.
They want no part of it. They don't want to even listen to it.
Yeah. And it's oftentimes the people regret and are embarrassed and ashamed when they are brought because they're like,
Yeah.
they're like, they don't want, it's like hard for them to even watch it. Like this would be
reminds me of
probably,
Go ahead.
it'd probably be hard for this kid to watch this, you know, if he was in a stable state. It would be hard for him to watch this even.
Yep,
You have
I've seen that too.
Pentagrams, must fall, inverted crosses. It's all inherently religious, and you know, it's like I don't know what sort of other keys you would need to absorb the fact that this is spiritual.
That's
But,
funny
you know,
that they put must fall on there, and that's a huge clue as to who is behind this, by the way. Just
He's
so you
also
guys
got
know.
like it's odd. Well, it's not odd, but they're playing like he's playing like a weird political angle. Like he's saying about like Trump must fall, but then at the same time, he's a transgender person, so like you're embracing the other side of the political spectrum. It's just bizarre.
Well, he's like the embodiment of chaos, which is why it's like, you know, what it's done right now to the political and cultural climate is it's put everybody in a position where they can pick something out of this event and use it to bolster their side of the argument.
I think this part here might be the part where, if I remember correctly, let's just listen here.
Better than the best. I got my Minnesota patch. In the fucking FSB. Maybe I look like a cop and I won't get rushed or something. I don't know. But shit, let's fucking do this before the anxiety kicks in.
Would that say let's do this before the anxiety kicks in? Yeah, let's get this done before there's any interference. Whoa, that's strange. Listen to that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's a switching. There's what's happening right now is there's multiple entities inside of him that are multiple different ones that are switching between the control over him.
Different accents, different personalities, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I guess we'll just listen to a little more.
Got more gas taped on this end. This will be for the emergency exit. Pop it through the hand. Oh, there's Garfield. This is all too fucking real.
All right, that's kind of funny, but
it's a little bit funny. Yeah,
it's like ridiculous.
Yeah,
there are like 3, 4, 5 distinct personalities coming through in this video. If you watch it, and there's like one of them, I wish I had it isolated. It's like him almost asking for help.
Yeah,
he's like I don't want to do this. And
I wish we would have found that. But
that one is quickly like pushed aside. They're like, yeah, we're doing this, and then just look at more guns. I'm like,
do you remember the Aurora, Colorado, where like, you know, he has his hair dyed, right? That was the guy who dyed his hair orange, and I think is that the same? That's not the same thing as the Batman, is it?
Yeah, that's
okay. So yeah, he dyed his hair orange. He's calling himself the Joker, and I know that within the MK Ultra program, one of the things that helps to create this disassociative state is that if you look in the mirror and your visage doesn't resemble you, so if you can dye your hair, if you can change your features, this whole transsexual movement is massively beneficial to that program because you want to talk about a dramatic change, so you no longer recognize the individual in the mirror. Which will allow you to slip into this disassociative state even deeper. I don't know what else you could do besides changing your gender. That's going to be, you know, pretty advantageous if that's the goal. If the goal is to create that disassociative state and then have another personality slip in, change your gender. Change your gender, and you're a prime candidate for it. So if they can create this gender dysphoria within you, you know, I was joking around during the intro of the show, but we have a shirt that says free range MK Ultra chickens, essentially. But it's like we all are. We're no longer in the lab getting our eyelids stretched open, being subjected to propaganda and being tormented. It's like a lot of people, especially the younger generation right now, is being subjected to this content that evokes gender dysphoria. And I think from there, you've got a pretty good selection process, because what happens is the more you're willing to go down that path, the more you're willing to engage with the medical community to help you achieve that goal. And once that happens, then you're on a list somewhere. Like, look, this person's willing to do hormone therapy. This person's trying to go for gender reassignment surgery. This person has all the genetic markers that they would be a good fit for this program. I think that much of what we're seeing is actually like a selection program for individuals they want to put through this process.
Yeah. And you know, the demons will oftentimes refer to themselves as they, them, or us, or we. And you know, like it's just so evident. It's so prevalent when you see a person calling themselves they, them, or whatever. You know, you're like, well, clearly, like, you know, what me and Jerry do. It's like, well, obviously you got something else talking through you, bro. That's why you keep calling yourself us and we and they and them. Like, to us, it's pretty obvious at this point. But like but people don't know that. They think that they, them is oh, it's my title. No, it's not. You have a demon and you're unaware that you have something demonic inside of you. That's the scary part. These people don't know that they are demonically being influenced. That's the really concerned part, because they're under this influence without being aware of it. That's what's called being spellbound. It's like if I turned you into a frog and you knew that you were used to be a human, you're like, I need to be turned back into a human. You're under a spell, but you know, right? Okay, these people are under a spell and they do not even know. That's called being spellbound. They are under demonic control and they don't even realize it. And so that it's terrible. Jerry, you're gonna say something?
I remember an example of this. It was one of the prisoners when I was working in the psych department of the state prison. He told me he was hearing voices. The voices convinced him that he should himself. And they said, get your gun, you know, jump in your car and just drive. And when you run out of gas, park the car, take your gun out in the desert and shoot yourself. So he said he did that. He ran out of gas. He walked out in the desert. He sat down, cocked the gun. He started to move it to his head. And he said this bird appeared in a tree near him. And he said it was like no bird he'd ever seen before. He lived in Arizona. He knew all the birds. He said this was a very strange bird. He'd never recognized it before. And the thing started screaming at him, you know, just like making, ah, ah. So he got his gun and he fired a shot at it. And I wanted to know whether he hit it. He said, no, I didn't hit it. I missed. But he said once the shot went off, the bang, the explosion of the gun, it woke him up, just like Bryan was saying. And he's looking at the gun and going, what was I going to do? You know,
that's
so that
incredible.
So it's exactly like Bryan said, they put them under some kind of hypnotic trance, and now they're under their control. How they do that, I don't know, but they do it.
Just before I came here to do this show, and so it feels like I should mention it. My wife, I overhear her watching a TikTok, and there's
we're at the part of the show where we're talking about Raven's wife's TikToks.
Yeah,
It's like, all right.
And it seems like it's some sort of like a pride event, you know, like a pride parade or something like that. And there's this black guy who's dressed like kind of like a bird, like I don't know if a flamenco dancer is the correct word. I don't think it is. It's like when you go to a parade and you see them with like feathers on their heads and like these sparkly outfits. He's dressed up like that. And this woman is interviewing him and she's asking him about this notion of like identifying as they, them, you know, they, them pronouns. And this guy is just saying, he goes, well, I identify like that because we are many. We are legion. We are legion. I am the one. I am the one who is many. And I'm like listening to this and I'm going, babe, what is this guy saying? And she pulls it back and he's just like, he's in this like frantic state of mind. He's all dressed up. You know what I mean? He's got his makeup done and he showed up to this event. He's clearly a figure in the parade or in the event. And the way he starts manically going off and he's using phrases that are like straight out of the Bible, but they don't seem to, he doesn't seem to understand even what he's saying. He's just going, I am legion. We are many. I am the one who is many. And I'm like, dude, like, what is going on? And she's just like, wow, so brave.
Now, I've heard that before, where they came out and said, we are legion. You know, ask him what their name was, and he said, we are legion. I remember one time, one guy, again, when I was working in the psych department of the prison, I was figuring out ways to interfere with the patterns that the voices ran to kind of trip them up, because they run very specific, repeatable patterns. So I was giving them homework, and they would come back in next week, and I'd ask them, well, what happened? How'd that work? That kind of stuff. And one guy came, I don't know how he got into the medical unit because I didn't send him a pass. And he knocks at my door one day, and I open the door, and he goes, "The voices want to talk to you." And I thought, so like, where'd that come from? You know, because up until that time, maybe 20, 25 years previous, it was like the patient would tell me what the voices were saying, and I would talk back through the patient. So they were like the intermediary. There was
Yeah.
never a direct conversation up to that point. There was later on, but up to that point. And open the door and sit down, and I say, "Okay, have a seat. What do they got to say?" And out of his mouth, these words came: "You have no right to interfere with our way of life."
Mm.
And it was like, boom, that was the point where my denial system completely disintegrated.
This
It
is
was like,
something that you've talked to us about before, and it sounds like I've heard things about the nature of these entities and how they only exist in a parasitic way. And
They're
I mean, like,
parasites.
yes, and I mean that in like the strictest way. They can only continue to exist if they have a host. So they're cursed to this existence where it's like, that emotion behind you have no right to interfere with our way of life. Our way of life, meaning they cease to exist if this process is interfered with. They are parasites. They need a host, and you're getting in the way of that. I want to talk a bit about some of the, you brought some transcribes from.
I wanted to ask him something because I've heard that story a couple of times as well, but what we come across a lot is like the hitchhiker effect. Are you familiar with that?
It doesn't ring a bell.
All right, so people that are investigating Bigfoot or other paranormal phenomenon, they'll go into places or they'll see and do things, and they'll get passengers, dark passengers, things that are like attachments that follow them into their regular life. When you were interfering with these guys' regular way of life, did this affect your like home life at all? Did you have any kind of paranormal activity or
even nightmares, strange happenings around the house, bouts of emotion, anger, inexplicable?
Well, what they did is they got my son, so they couldn't get me, so they got him, and he's been struggling with these things for years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think recently he I don't know, the battle comes and goes. He clears up, and then so they can't get me directly, so they get me through him.
Yeah.
Right? So you think, well, you should be able to help him. All this. No, he won't listen to anything I say. So I can't really reach him. Matter of fact, he just tried to call me a second ago. But yeah, I think he's slowly getting there. And I told him, you have to have, you got to get on a spiritual path and stay there. Now, Bryan and I have a link that is that, because the MACE Energy Method will not work without the spirit taking care of the negative energy.
Yeah.
Okay? So what the system does, it sets up a kind of like a what do you call it, structure or a pipeline to the person's spirit, because energy flows from negative to positive. Okay, so the negative identity or negative spirit is negative. It sets up a pipeline to the spirit that's positive, and the spirit takes that energy and transforms it into positive energy. Okay. Now, from what I'm seeing now, MACE works maybe 50% of the time with schizophrenics, depending on how deep they are. Okay. But I had one yesterday. The voices disappeared. When the session was gone, it was gone. So there's a spiritual link between what Bryan does and what I do. I mean, MACE wouldn't work without that spirit. Now, I don't have to talk about that. It's all automatic. Right? Bryan brings it up and just beats him over the head with it. Bryan, do you have that video? That would be good for them to see, to let them know what we're dealing with. Go ahead, put that
I
on.
can play a video.
Yeah,
Well,
let's bring that up, and we're at the 39-minute mark, so we have to go. Unfortunately, for those of you who are watching for editing purposes and such, we got to go. live exclusively to Patreon. If you want access to that unedited version before it drops to the general public, well, then patreon.com/Nephilim Death Squad is for you. Otherwise, you'll see this episode in about a week.
Yeah. So as I do that,
and we're gonna have
wanted to
footage,
mention-
guys, video footage of stuff that that I've not really shown. I'm just gonna show it.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting.
You'll
By
see
the way,
what we're directly
Mhm.
dealing with here.
I just want to say, while you're in the process of doing that, and we're going to bring up this video, I was listening to an episode of Tony Merkel's The Confessionals, and long story short, is an individual who, when he was younger, he and his brother were sort of tricked into a drug experience where they didn't realize that the individual who was bringing them for this drug experience had plans to do a sort of ritual or ceremony. And things went really wrong. He and his brother were horrified. They skipped out of there. And once they realized what was going on, but ever since then, his brother is unreachable and is, fallen to schizophrenia. And also is very reactive to any attempts to like reach out and kind of help.
One more thing, what I wanted to say too, what you're describing with this MACE Energy Method, like this like transfer of positive into the spirit and the negative leaves. It's like biblically, they say if you are filled with the Holy Spirit, you cannot be inhabited by another spirit. It's like if you're a cup and your cup is full already, you can't be filled in by demonic entities.
The
so
idea
like,
that you couldn't be possessed, but you could be oppressed.
That's a little bit wrong.
Yeah,
and I will tell you,
that. They hammer us all, no matter what stage you're in.
Yeah, it don't matter. It don't matter what you like. You're a vessel, but your vessel is not fillable fully. Okay, so like no matter what, they can attach to you even if you are full of the Holy Spirit. Doesn't matter.
And they hit us all with negative ideas. All of a sudden you get this what do you call it? Impulsive, or it's just like a negative idea that just
Negative thought popped in your head.
Thought pops in your head.
Or an imagination.
And it tells you to do something really bad and stupid. Like I had one guy write me and he said, "Oh, I know what you were saying with that." He said, "I was standing behind my boss the other day and this voice jumped into my head, sounded just like him." So that's what's deceptive. It sounds just like the thousands of other voices that go through your head on a regular day. And it's telling him, spit on your boss. So that's what makes it so difficult, because we believe that every thought that comes into our head belongs to us. It's in our head. Who else could it belong to? No, these thoughts come from outside. Manuel Swedenborg said, none of your thoughts are your own. They either come from heaven or they come from hell.
When I was younger, I had that. I was holding my sister. I was standing at the top of a staircase, and I just was overwhelmed with this intrusive thought and it got so horrifying. Like it felt like I was considering doing it. I had to put her down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had to put her down. I was
exactly
very
it,
little.
bro.
That's what it's like.
That's exactly it.
And that's what this other guy went through. The guy. Only he didn't put it down. He followed through. So what happens with that is, when something like that happens, the misery just explodes, because look at all the mothers and fathers and families that are now suffering.
Yeah.
Generating negative emotional energy for these things to feed off of because of what this one guy did. And then the deep state's going, well, we got to take the guns now. Every time something like this happens, we got to take the guns. It's as if it was the guns that shot the guy. Here's all these people in Britain. They don't have guns, so they're with cars. Did anybody ever scream and say, "Oh, take away the cars"?
Yeah.
We can't let them have cars anymore. How
But
ridiculous is that?
Jerry, why would we let such a good tragedy go to waste?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
Let's get everything we can, right?
There's an opportunity to seize what you want. A little Hegelian dialectic goes a long way.
Horrific, man.
Yeah.
So we have this video pulled up. Well, what is this?
This is an event where some people, were praying at this event and started to speak and command the demons to leave. And these are just a bunch of people at the event. This is, these people didn't think they had demons, half of them. Okay. They're just here to out, bro, look at what happens. They're on the ground, rolling around. People are throwing up everywhere.
And Brian, what are you or the other people doing to kind
Praying.
of trigger this?
Just
Just
commanding
praying.
spirits to leave.
Was it just you doing it, or was a bunch
No,
of people?
there was some other people here doing this. And this was just at a public setting, bro. And people start throwing up. This is so, mind you, this is like, it's crazy. Like, it's
It
not
sounds like hell.
Bro, it does, right? It's pretty terrible stuff.
It sounds like it.
So this is stuff I don't share these stuff because there's just so much involved. But like, I do have one video that I have shared that I'll play this one because it's pretty intense. But I mean, like, this is, you know, this is my studio. This woman came in for stickers at my shop that I was doing
She came in
stuff.
for stickers.
She came in for stickers, bro, and she's sitting behind me, and then like it starts manifesting while I'm sitting doing design work, and bro, it's pretty gnarly. Like, and then we just start praying, and dude,
She's
she
throwing
just
up?
starts throwing up, bro. Like, she can't control it. I told her friend, I'm like, friend, that's her friend sitting on the couch. I'm like, just read the Bible. Do not watch. Don't look up. Just don't watch. Because when people watch, it will jump. It will jump from one person to another, and it will move. Like, the spirit will go. It can move if your friends are really close friends. If they're like best friends, the spirit will jump to the person. And I know that sounds crazy.
I wonder too. I imagine if you're living the same lifestyle with that individual that opened up those doorways in the first place, you know, because I was like I said, I was listening to that episode of Tony's show, and it was like all these guys were kind of a group of friends. They were really close, and they're all living very similar lifestyles, doing the same yada yada. And interestingly enough, one of them was Spice K2, which comes up on the show constantly. These people who smoke spice, which was very popular in like 2009, 2010.
Here's a good question, actually. Is that doing that to us right now? Like, we're watching this?
No, I mean, he said your friends, your close
friends.
friends.
You got to be friends. When you're close friends to this, when somebody is demonically possessed and you're like in their life and you're their best friend, you guys are roommates. Yeah. And you're like living together, the spirit can jump. I've experienced, Jerry hasn't necessarily, I think, experienced that one, but I've experienced this one, and I've seen it like a few times actually, where the people have to be best friends. They call the condition folie à deux, which is like when two schizophrenic people supposedly hallucinate the same experience. Like, there is a name for this condition, but I've come to realize, like, the person they have to be like really close. And so you don't really see that, I guess, in the medical field very often. Jerry was mentioning it's not very common to see it, but that's because the people in the medical field aren't usually becoming best friends right away.
Well, they
separate
point,
these people.
That story that I keep telling you about, him and his brother shared a dream as well during this time. So it's like, yeah, when you're really close to somebody, they're appearing in your dreams. You're waking up. You're going, did you just have a dream about this? Yeah, I did have a dream about that. Like, there seems to be a level of intimacy that's required in order for this sort of an event to take place.
Yeah, there has to be a deep connection with the situation, and it's very rare, but it does happen. So like, when I pray for people, I just tell people, don't watch. Like, don't like, if you guys are too close of friends, don't even look. So I'll tell people, just read the Bible. Don't, like, you can be here, pray for them. Don't look up. Don't watch while this is going on. I got a question.
Like, how is she manifesting to the point where you were like, all right, we're gonna like put business aside and do this?
Well, I'm just sitting at the computer, just like clicking away, you know. And then all of a sudden, behind me, I hear her like, and I'm like, "You okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I'm like, "Definitely doesn't seem fine." I'm like, keep clicking. I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden, it's like, she's like, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, listen.
Brian's like, I can change the design. If you want me to change the design, I can change the design.
Is it the quantity of stickers that is upsetting you?
Yeah. And then I'm just talking about demons and stuff with her too. So it's like, and so I'm just like, hey, look, like, here's the deal.
I was gonna ask, did you provoke, like, so you were talking a little bit about, okay, so
I was talking a little bit about demonic stuff, and it starts, they don't like it when you talk about the stuff that calls them out, right? So like, I just, just my general conversation, and she's with her friend, and I'm like, okay.
I love this. I love
that's
Brian.
how it is. That's our general. You can't out with us without being like, do you know what the MK Ultra program
Have you
is
heard
really
of
about?
Dr. Jerry Marzinsky?
Dude,
Dr. Jerry, you have no idea. My entire family
is addicted to alcohol now. Our fan base is addicted to alcohol because every time we mention your name, they have to take a drink. And it's every episode, by the end of it, they're all drunk. I
I'm
swear.
like, actually, there's a guy, Dr. Jerry Marzinsky. He has 35 years in the clinical field. And it's just like, blah, 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 like, and they're like, yeah, we know.
We know, dude. We know. I'm surprised we don't have I know a clinical psychologist in the field for 35 years shirt. We should get a shirt that just says that. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, I remember one time I walked into the ER, okay, and here's this woman in the psychiatric. She's laying there, and I didn't know her from Adam, never met her before. I was assigned to do her psych eval to see where she was, and brought her in, started talking to her. She said, as soon as she walked into the psychiatrics, the voices said, stay away from him. He's dangerous.
Yeah, they know.
Yeah.
They know us.
They know.
They know what we do.
That's wild.
It's
we
pretty
had
funny.
mentioned earlier that you had some transcribes.
Oh wait, I think there's one more video.
Oh, there is another video.
Oh, there's
Let's
one.
let her
Yeah.
rip.
Well, here I'll tell you. So that girl, by the way, was sitting there. She's like, I'm like, look,
Yeah,
here's
is she
the deal.
okay?
Oh, she's fine now. She's great. And so I was like, hey, by the way, I was like, here's the deal. I can either finish your design stuff and we can work on your sticker, or I was like, you probably do. And I was like, and you've been doing them for a while. And she's like, yeah, but like I'm fine with them. And I'm like, no, you're not.
Cool.
And I was like, no, you're not. You're obviously not fine with them, and you have evoked a spirit, and the spirit is real uncomfortable right now, and that's why your body keeps twitching. She's like, are you serious? And I'm like, yes. And she's like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, we can finish this or we can pray. And she's like, okay, let's pray. And like we talk about it, bro. Pray. The thing like comes leaving out of her, bro. She gets like healed from all kinds of stuff, dude. Like she's like afterwards, she's just like feels like a totally different person.
Which
Did she say
which drugs?
Which drug? I mean, you don't have to out
Bro,
her. We already saw her.
I don't recall, but there was I think there was like it wasn't ones that she was like addicted in the sense like you wouldn't have known. You wouldn't have known. She seemed manageable of her drug addiction.
Fantastic.
And so like
guy,
it wasn't
he had a vape, and it's like this is also another thing that's being brought up. They're like,
yes.
oh, we have to target, like he was vaping, so it was all the vape, and I was like, I don't know if it's all the vape, but I was like, man, that might contribute to it, dude. I
Well,
don't know
yeah,
what's that.
because the weed vapes are like some highly concentrated, oil that's incredibly high in THC, which is the psychedelic compound of marijuana. And I don't know what the CBD levels are on it, but it's a low grade psychedelic. We talk about that all the time. That goes into the whole free range MK Ultra victims thing. Is they're typically dosing you with LSD,
like
or
LSD,
something,
yeah.
but in real life you're just now on a low grade constant psychedelic in the form of like this industry marijuana that's been given to us all
it makes you suggestible, and a lot of things is about these is like they want everybody into MK Ultra. Like they don't realize like how much MK Ultra is involved with demons. Like that's what they were doing, guys. At MK Ultra, they were studying the occult. They weren't just doing like experimental stuff. They were trying to evoke spirits and blackmail you, and then evoke spirits into you through trauma-based mind control. That's literally what it was doing. And something about the shooters. What was that last event? I actually got a comment removed recently because I commented on somebody made a video on that one guy that went to the 33rd floor and himself. That guy that went to bro, I made a comment referencing the other people. Every one of these mass people are demonized. Okay, like flat out, they're demonized. They're MK Ultra projects. They are mind controlled. They're brainwashed into this. Okay, half of them all have gone. They're all gone to therapists. Okay, they all go to therapists that don't serve them of any kind, and they're like usually like government subsidized therapists. So you're like a little bit weird. A lot of them are from the country where they wear little small hats. They're Jewish, surprisingly.
But the therapists also are on these not psychedelics. They're on these government themselves.
Oh yes. Oh, of course they are, because they're part of
Brian,
the agenda. And
that guy that did the 33rd floor. Did you see that tweet where like he went missing like 17 years ago or something like that? And then or 17 or 7 years ago, 7 I think it was. He went missing, and his classmates were making like tweets about it back in 2017, saying I'm not going to stop talking about this until they find my friend. And like he went MIA. Then all of a sudden he reemerges, and he's up the Blackstone building and kills himself on the 33rd floor. So yeah, I mean they probably did
took him. They took it. Well, Here's the other thing. So you know the guys that drove and did the at Las Vegas with the Tesla, and that blew up the Tesla truck with fireworks.
Yeah.
Okay, and that guy, and then on the same day, another man drove through a crowd. I think it was in New Orleans or something. That drove through a crowd with a truck. That, now get this, there was 2, and he killed like 8 people or something with a ISIS flag tied to his truck. Okay.
Yep.
Now let me just explain something. Both of those gentlemen on the same day rented trucks from the Toro app on the same day. They modified their trucks. They both modified them. One to hold a flag and the other one to be rigged with explosives and fireworks. There was fireworks in there. It was so stupid. It was very obviously not like they did that on purpose. Nobody needs to add fireworks into their stuff. Okay.
Right.
So both of them on the same day did this. They both rented it from the same Toro app. They were both ex-military and they both came from Fort Braggs. Fort Braggs was known, has been renamed actually, but was known, and it renamed it because of the negative association that was involved with MK Ultra programming at Fort Braggs. Both of these gentlemen were military people from the same app, from the same thing, on the same day. And you're like, what are the odds of that? What are the odds that they did a mobilization of 2 individuals to do an act of violence against society on the same day? And then they both, so it's like all these victims, they up the thing, and then why do they every time? Why do they every time? Like, they don't,
Can't
because
tell
they
stories
don't.
if you're dead.
Yeah, you can't. Dead men don't talk. That's why. And so they program them to do this, and then to kill themselves, or they them on purpose because dead men can't tell no tales. So if they didn't, we would know a little bit more about what's going on, and we'd find out, hey, let's do some deeper psychological analysis of these individuals. Bro, guarantee you they were both going to psychiatrists. Guarantee you there's some connections there. And then it's like, dude, they strap on, like, one of them straps on the ISIS flag, and they're like, oh, it's the Muslim agenda, these crazy Muslim. Bro, they're trying to misallude you from the fact that it has nothing. It's demonic. They want you to be pointing fingers at different groups of humans and say, these humans are bad, these humans are bad, these humans, and come into unity and peace and love with one another. They want you to be thinking that everybody else is the enemy, but really it's the demons. It's the entities that are controlling it through abuse. That's what's going on. Sorry.
Anyway.
And then they send these guys to psychiatrists who spend no time talking with them and dump these powerful chemicals on their brain that turn them into zombies that don't anything. It just they're major tranquilizers.
That's why sometimes you see them show up to court and they're just completely zombies.
Zombied out of it. So you got over 50,000 people in the United States killing themselves every year. That's as many as died in the whole Vietnam War. This is year after year after year after year. And a good many of them are on antipsychotic and antidepressant that are doing nothing, and they're still killing themselves and others. They closed down all the state hospitals all over the country. So where are these guys going? They're either robbing people, selling, or using and on the sidewalks. You see them everywhere on the sidewalks. These guys are mentally ill. They got nowhere else to go. They got no money. And what happens is they get arrested, they get thrown in prison for double the cost of keeping them in a mental hospital, because now you're paying for security, you're paying for all the infrastructure that goes in with a prison, which is barbed wire and electric fencing and sensors and all this other kind of stuff, and expensive guards and stuff, instead of just attendants to watch over these guys. So they've managed to flood society with these out of control psychotic people that are piled up on the sidewalks in San Francisco and San Diego and all these other democratic states where they don't want anything done with them, and nobody's being cured. You got more psychiatrists, more psychologists, and more psychiatric on the planet now than has ever been in the history of mankind, and you've got more mentally ill, and they're getting sicker all the time. The prisons are filled to overflowing. The mental health centers are overflowing. The psych hospitals are overflowing. Nobody's getting better, and they don't want them to.
What do you think of? I mean, Trump had. I don't know how he's moved forward on it, but he'd mentioned reopening these state institutionalization facilities.
Oh, that's
that
so
were, I guess,
creepy.
more prevalent. It's creepy, but it's like we're at the point, like Dr. Jerry just mentioned, like these Democrat-run cities that are now having the National Guard, you know,
Right.
put in them because it's just been mismanaged to a point where I'm from New York City. So like, I'm like, yeah, I get it. The last thing I want though is, you know, men with like army men with guns
Taking
running,
people to get lobotomized.
yeah,
Right?
running a city. But I'm like, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't really know what you do.
Well, Kensington Avenue in what is that, Philadelphia, is so brutal. These people are like standing up, falling asleep with their limbs rotting off. I was watching a video of a woman who, interestingly, she was covered in tattoos. What were the tattoos? Oh, is it Vishnu, the giant elephant god from Vedic?
Ganesh.
Ganesh, thank you.
Yeah.
And so she's got this giant Ganesh tattoo on her. Half her face is a scab all the way down to her neck. And when the camera rotated to the back of her head, the entire back of her skull was just one gigantic scab. You know, her flesh is falling off. She's still up and she's talking about, it was horrifying, you know, like what she used to think she was going to be. And now she's this Walking Dead member in Kensington.
That's where they
Avenue.
think. That's where they think that there's bugs crawling inside of their skin. So they try to, you know, they do that.
Which,
that's
by the way,
result of that.
That is a symptom. We talked about it before, and it brought it up to my mind. Morgellons disease, which is associated with Lyme's disease, which I'm pretty comfortable with the idea that Lyme's disease was a weaponized, a bioweapon created in a lab, and then you know, they use ticks to execute it. But that's one of the things, is there's like fibers growing out of your skin, and there's bugs crawling under your skin and all these different things. And that's Morgellons disease. And it, you know, so it's like everything they do, you know, when Bryan's saying that the MK Ultra program, it's basically the study of demons, government study of demons.
But well, this is what I was asking though. So like, we have the government operating in they're behaving in one way where they're like studying and extrapolating on these entities throughout society. But then you have Donald Trump who's proposing this idea, and it's like, I don't know if that's a good solution, because that could easily be flipped around on me. They can call me crazy and throw me in there, but I'm like,
touche.
In your opinion and like in your expertise, like where do you put that suggestion that he's floated? I don't know how they moved on it, but what do you think about that?
What, the mental hospitals?
Yeah, like should they be reopened again?
Yes. Yeah. What? Look what's happening to these people now. They, in order to survive, they have to sell, they have to rob people. You know, they're using. I mean, they're derelicts. I mean,
yeah.
They got much better treatment. And I've worked at both places. I started off working 7 years. The first 7 years of my profession, I was at the biggest psychiatric hospital on the planet in Milledgeville, Georgia. There were 10,000 patients there when I got there, and you know, the conditions weren't great, but they were better than living on the streets, eating out of garbage cans, selling, you know, panhandling people, you know, crapping on the sidewalks, you know, and it was much cheaper than sending them to prisons, where a lot of them eventually end up under high security prisons. And there's nothing, I mean, these medications, I mean, the side effects are awful. I remember one time I was walking down the first floor of the psychiatric unit at this big hospital where I was talking to you about, and here was a maintenance man cutting a cap off of this banister that ran up to the second floor of the psychiatric unit. And I noted that there was no cap on this banister on the second floor. It was open. It was like an open pipe that ran all the way down the stairwell to the first floor. So here's all these patients standing there watching the sparks fly, and it was like a little 4th of July. So I just joined in the crowd, and I was watching the fireworks with all the patients. And here's this maintenance man cutting the cap off of this bottom part of the banister. And, you know, it was the most exciting thing going on at the time. So we're just watching all the sparks fly and the smoke. And when that cap fell off, there was a waterfall of multicolored pills that just poured out of that banister. There were thousands of them. They had been dumping their pills down that banister for decades, and it just kept pouring out of that banister. You know, and they just hit the floor and they just spread out in this multicolored facade all over the place, and it just kept coming and coming and coming, and I'm just standing there just wide-eyed, knowing each one of those is a choice of mostly schizophrenic patients to remain schizophrenic, because the only thing we had then back in the 70s were those.
That's probably why they were standing around. They're like, I know what's in that railing. I know what's about to pop out when they.
I never thought of that, but
cap
they
off.
might have known that. I didn't.
Wow.
It took me by surprise, and from then on, it was like, why did they do that? Why aren't they taking these meds? I mean, at least with those meds, they regained some semblance of sanity, even though they were groggy and drugged up. They could somewhat function. They weren't causing problems. You know, they weren't beating each other up. They weren't trying to kill themselves. I mean, those were controlling them, and that's the main thing with psychiatric hospitals, is keep the population under control. So, you know, here's the big pharma saying, oh, we have to charge so much for these because we spend all these years in research, and that cost a fortune. No, these psychiatric were found by accident in a German dye lab, you know, back in the late 1800s, I believe it was. And then the French came over because all the dye lab workers were getting gorked out, and they were just, you know, kind of sedate. So these French guys from a French pharmaceutical company came over. They extracted the active ingredient of this dye that was a major tranquilizer, phenothiazines. Okay, and then they wanted to test it on a psychiatric hospital in Europe. By then, the Freudians were running everything, and they go, no, you know, that's the wrong path. It's psychoanalysis is what we're going to do. You take your and go somewhere else. So they came to America. And they made a deal with one psychiatric hospital somewhere to try this out. And lo and behold, the entire population was sedated. They were now behaving. They weren't running around. They didn't have to chase them down and wrestle them into what do you call it, straitjackets. You know, because I got on just right after the straitjacket thing happened. I mean, so this was a blessing for the psych hospitals. These guys were all drugged up. They were zombies. They were under control. They weren't causing problems. They weren't fighting with each other. They weren't killing each other, but nobody was getting better, you know. And even though the voices might have disappeared, as soon as they went off them, they came back again.
See, that's my concern with reopening of the asylums, is like, if you're not going to introduce
actual help.
Yeah, if you're not going to introduce Jesus Christ to the situation, if you're not going to introduce the cutting edge of frequency technologies or something like that to the situation, what is that going to look like? Because as soon as you start treating these things like the spiritual problem that they are, well, then that's going to throw the rest of the medical industry into array, right?
Well,
Disarray.
I think it's going to be worse. I think it would just be a space where there's going to be more people that they're going to make into zombie puppets, and there's going to be more abuse, and there's going to be more controlling system. But that stuff's already happeing. But
yeah,
they're on the sidewalks. They're
out on the sidewalks now, robbing people, breaking into people's houses, crapping on the sidewalks. Beating people up, killing each other.
Yeah. And they're already being taken advantage of. By the way, side note, I was in LA and there was cameras that I just found out in LA in Skid Row. People install cameras, personal cameras. There was a guy, I watched a video of a dude cutting one of the cameras down. But there's cameras that people on the internet supposedly are installing solar powered signal cameras to get live feed of all the craziness going on in Skid Row. And you're like, who the heck's installing cameras to watch what's going on in Skid Row? Like, why are they doing this?
Entertainment,
right?
Entertainment, or is it to find subjects that they can kidnap? Because a lot of these people go missing.
Why not both?
They go missing. Yeah. They go missing completely, and people are like, dude, I don't know if you know this, but like when the LA area, they tried to clean up Skid Row, there was a bunch of people that were there for years, okay? And their tent little house went missing, and people were on the internet, other homeless people were like, hey, this girl was here for 5 years. I've been to her. I got her phone number. She is gone. She's not answering her phone. The tent is gone. Everything she was doing, she was selling their bikes out of this tent, is gone. Like, gone. Everything's gone. And like, bro, there were so many people go missing that are on the streets, bro. They want people on the streets. They want people in these questionable areas because then they can just pick you up and then take you.
I agree with Dr. Marzinsky in the sense of like right now they are an active threat to society and an active threat to themselves. And otherwise they're literally decaying, dying, and all these, and they're putting others in jeopardy as well. But I also know that once you, and you know, there is an argument for it being a better solution than what we have going on right now. But once you put them in the asylums, they're not going to do anything that's cutting edge. They're not going to do anything that's spiritual, because that threatens the entire medical industry as it currently stands. So if they were to open up an asylum, start implementing, you know, reading the Bible and spirituality and all these different things, you know, everybody would say, hey, if this is working here, well, what about all the other things that you know plague us as humanity? Should we be implementing Christianity in those regards as well? And then that would just throw that whole system into array or disarray.
One thing that you got to comprehend, that these demons do not like preachers. They don't like the Bible. They don't like Bible groups. They don't like anybody talking to them about religious stuff.
Yeah.
So, and even though we had chaplains in the prison and in the psych hospital, they had a very limited effect, because the voices don't want anything to do with churches. So when I found out that, you know, that one patient said, hey, I prayed the 23rd Psalm and the demons started screaming. They was like throwing them on a hot frying pan. So I started handing out the 23rd Psalm, and I bring the guys in a week later and said, well, what happened? The voices didn't like it. They can't stand it.
They don't like Christianity. They don't like
Christianity.
It's not gonna necessarily help them. It's almost like torturing them if you don't know how to handle it. It's just like, you're just gonna make them more pissed off.
Yeah, they run for it.
Yeah.
So I started asking them questions. I like, what happens when you go into church? And I found it broken up into three, I think it was three categories. If the voices were very weak when they went into a church, the voices shut up. If they were moderate strength, they would pick up, they'd get louder, they'd start mocking the preacher and telling the patient, hey, Jesus couldn't even save himself. Why are you listening to this guy? You're wasting your time. And they would interfere with the person listening to the sermon. If they were very strong, those guys would get up and run out of the church. So these things don't like religion. They don't like it at all. But at least they're available, because if you go send them to a psych hospital, there's chaplains there they can talk to. At least that road is open. It's, you know, it's open to them if they want, and if the chaplains go out and start working with them, I mean, if that's something. Out on the streets, they're never going to go to a church. They're never going to go to seek God. They're
going to get killed.
They're going to get killed. They're going to kill other people. They're going to crap on the sidewalks. They're going to rob people. They're going to stab each other. You know, they're going to disrupt society.
You know what the biggest thing is that I've noticed that these people need is community. It's like the number one thing. And so if we did implement some kind of facility to house some of these individuals, it would not be to give them more. It would have to be to give them community, and it would have to be to give them love and family, because a lot of what happened, that's one of the most healing factors, you know, of this kind of thing, is when they have, like when you're isolated, these voices want to isolate you every time.
Yes.
So this is why you see these people on the streets, and they actually seem to be somewhat functional when they're on the streets, because they start to have a community with the other street people. And it's like they're at least in this space where they're bonding with other people in this condition. So really, I mean, I know there's another country, I think it's Sweden or something, one of the other countries, where they force you into a community when you don't go to prison, you don't go to jail. If you get caught and it's like a really severe thing, they force you into these little communities, and communities become like your family, and it rehabs you in some capacity, and it works way better. And so like, this is something that we should be looking into, is alternative methods to whatever we got, because whatever we got ain't working at all.
Working at all. I can guarantee
the slightest bit. And if we have facilities, the facilities focused on community, it focused on love, it focused on alternative methods like, you know, like MACE or even deliverance, like what I'm doing, and casting out demons. Like, if it focused on those things, that would be great. And we build like a system where we can, you know, help people like exist with one another and return to that unity of love that Christ has called us to. You know, it says to love one another and love the Lord your God. You know, that's the hugest key, I think.
See, and that's what you were saying about the that one lady that disappeared. She'd been there for 5 years in that community, And you look around Tucson, here's these in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, these homeless camps where they form their own little community.
Yep.
And a good many of them are mentally ill, and they understand one another. Because believe me, when I started learning about these voices and weird stuff started happening, it was like there was nobody I could talk to except the schizophrenics themselves. They understood this
Yeah.
stuff. So here I am having all these conversations about the voices with schizophrenics, but I couldn't talk to anybody else about that stuff, including my wife.
That's why we became friends.
At the very least,
Yeah, we
like,
could probably talk to each other about it.
there's got to be a discussion about. That's why I'm glad I brought that question up, because obviously there's there's a push and pull in this argument of like, what do you do with these people? And it's a fair question. It's like, we got to do something with these people.
Yeah.
And there's no real satisfactory answers, but the discussion has to be had at like a higher level, a much larger level.
Yeah.
You know what they had at the hospital where I was working on? They had a vocational rehabilitation workshop where they were working on blinds, or it was some kind of industrial contract where they could go, and even though they were on, they could still do something productive and earn some money. It was like a giant sheltered workshop, but at least they didn't feel useless. They weren't on the ward staring at the ceilings and reading mysteries and war stories and that kind of stuff. They were out there actually contributing. They were earning some money to help their keep.
Yeah,
that would be good.
But that's the thing about these people they're really any of us with just the right amount of suddenly introduced into your life, and an addiction. Those two things right there alone they'll open the door up to pretty much everything else that's needed to create that situation where you're one of these people on the streets, in Kensington Avenue in Philadelphia. That's just, it's not that far of a cry for it to end up being, any of us. Like I said, it's just one disaster and one drug addiction away. And next thing you know, you're feeling pretty worthless. Your inability to stop the situation, your inability to have any agency in it, that starts to wear at you. And these are all things, I don't know if it was you, Dr. Marzinsky, that said this, or if we got it from somewhere else, but it resonates with me. It's like, we're all, we're all schizophrenic. It's just to what degree. Like, we all have that intrusive thought, that doubt, that thing that puts you down, that thing that says you can't do this, you aren't worth that, nobody likes you, da-da-da-da. It whispers to pretty much everybody. It's just to what degree do you look at that thing and identify with it? Because that's really the slippery slope, is when you begin to identify with it instead of identifying it as something outside of yourself that's oppressing you in some way, shape, or form. Once it starts to resonate with you and you go like, yeah, man, I ain't shit. That's all of a sudden when it starts to happen. That's when it's got its foot in the door. So, it's a sad thing, man, because like I said, I was watching that lady, and she's talking about, what she thought she was going to be when she was a little girl. And she didn't think she was going to be, the Walking Dead on Kensington Avenue. She thought she was going to be any number of things that any of us thought. We were a veterinarian, something like that. And instead she's like, wondering if she's going to live, because half her head is made of scab. And, it's a little disheartening, because I know that we have a way through. This show, we're constantly talking about Jesus Christ. We're talking about the supernatural. We're talking about spirituality. And I do think that maybe I may have the bias. I talk about it all the time. It's like, maybe because I do this show, I'm making the mistake of thinking that this is becoming more widespread than it actually is. But it feels to me like the world has gone in such a strange direction that more and more people are seeking out information like this. You know what? That might be a good...
They're waking up for sure.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
They're waking up.
A barometer, right? I think that's the word. A good barometer for it is Dr. Marzinsky. It seems like in a lot of ways you have become a bit of a household name in the conspiracy community.
Really?
You haven't noticed that? You don't have people, because it's like, I don't talk to anybody now who does a different show or something like that, who doesn't go, oh, I know who that guy is. I know who that guy is. Or we had him, or, oh, I just had that guy on the show. You don't feel like that's the case? Like you're speaking on this topic to more audiences than you were previously?
Well, I've been speaking on this topic for a long time. I'm surprised they haven't come down on me for it, because these guys are making, I think it's 14.7 billion not million, $1 billion a year selling antipsychotic to the rest of us. Okay.
Right.
And it's like 14, it's almost 15 billion they're making selling antidepressants every year. And these aren't curing anything. They don't want anything changing. They want to just treat the symptoms, and that's it. So, one of the biggest lies that they put out is that the voices schizophrenics hear are hallucinations.
Mm-hmm.
They're not hallucinations. I've got 23 patterns on my website. And for any of you guys that are out there working with schizophrenics, or if you have a schizophrenic in your family, or you're working in a mental health center, go to my website under jerrymarzin.com, then go to articles and pull up the list of patterns. Okay. Take them and run them through with your psychotic patients, and you'll see that these are repeatable patterns that they all have, and they're all subject to. So if these voices are running patterns, they can't be hallucinations. Hallucinations are random. They're all over the place. They're positive, they're negative, they're just all over the place. These things are running full-blown, repeatable, predictable patterns. They're not hallucinations. Hallucinations don't run patterns. And here's a psychiatric going, hey, we're the psychiatric, we run the mental health center. So you listen to us. We're telling you these things are hallucinations. Your brain is broken. There's nothing you can do about it. That is a lie also. It was made up by Eli Lilly back in the 60s when they came out with Prozac to sell Prozac, and then the psychiatric adopted it, and big pharma adopted it, and they started teaching it in the universities. It's an absolute lie. It's been
There's no measuring
over
it
and over and over. Yeah,
like
that's the other thing.
How are you going to measure it? Nobody gets evaluated for schizophrenia based off of like checking the chemicals in your blood. They get evaluated by you acting in person.
Yeah,
right.
I bring this up
all
often.
Subjective. There is no test.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, exactly.
There's no objective test for any one of those diagnoses. What is it, like over 200 diagnoses now in that DSM?
Yeah.
Including mathematics disorder, caffeine disorder.
Yep.
Sibling relational disorder. Kids.
I had they tried to diagnose me with some sort of medical terminology that was associated with a problem with authority figures.
Mental retardation.
Well, that one too. When I was a kid, they diagnosed me with ADHD, and it was like the way they diagnosed me was they had me do a math packet, and I didn't finish it like in the time allotted. And it was like, all right, Adderall. We're gonna put them on Adderall, and I was like 11 or something like that.
And amphetamine.
Yeah, which it explains why it did wonders for my weight loss.
They're trying to do that to Jack's girlfriend's sister. The little girls, same thing. They focus in school, and
the little one.
The little one, I told
the father, sharp, dude.
Yeah, but school is boring, so they're like, well, she clearly needs to be on amphetamines. And I told the father like outright, he's kind of a normie though, and I was like, absolutely don't do that to your daughter. Yeah. And I don't know what he's gonna do.
It's crazy because it does make you so much slower. Because they put me on Ritalin when I was a child too, and it makes you so much slower. Yeah. Which is the same thing as Adderall back in the day. But it really does make you like a zombie. I didn't take it. I took it like a few times, and then I would pretend to take it. I would hide it under my tongue, or I would hide it in my upper gums, and the teachers would always check your mouth. I'd hide it in my upper gums, and I'd act like it was under my tongue. They'd be like, show me under your tongue, show me under your tongue. I'd be like, mm-mm. And then I would be like, okay. And then they'd see under my tongue, and then I would go, and then I would just go around and spit it out of the top of my gums. I made them think
that's such a bummer though, because that little girl that you're talking about is like, I remember I was talking to my wife about her, and I was like, yeah, she's sharp. She's got like a solid personality.
Yeah,
she's got like she's a normal little, well, she's, I would say she operates a little bit above the intellect of a kid her age. Typically, she's a little bit sharper. She's a little bit more personality driven. And the idea that they want to put her on, that's probably why she finds school boring, is because she's a little bit of cut above the average kid. And so it's not a challenge for her. It's not engaging.
And look at our society today, though. There's so many children today are so dumb. It is so upsettingly, because all the children, bro, I can't even find people to hire because they are so intellectually, like mentally like brain does not function. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to describe this other than they are all like they're like borderline. They're retarded. Like that our society is now.
Yeah.
And like,
well, I don't have
and it's so sad and unfortunate because they've been Ritalonized or ADD'd or Adderalled to the point where their brain doesn't even operate like a normal person anymore.
Yeah. I don't have the video at hand, but RFK Jr., he's talking about, you know, I briefly touched on it at the beginning of the show, you know, that they're going to talk about what's been causing this entire time. And you know, for the sake of editing later, I won't say it. Just as like, I'm sure we can all imagine what the answer is going to be. And he was kind of
we know
alluding
what
to
it is.
But if you looked at the numbers, I think he said something like 1 in 10,000 used to be the number of children who had. And now a recent study in California says 1 in every 12 boys has. And shame on California for assuming the gender of these children, but 1 in 12 of these genderly ambiguous children who haven't decided what they are yet are considered. And it's like, you know it's frustrating, man, because we've sat here for as long as we have, for as many years as we've been suspicious of things like, you know, I mean, I don't care, we're gonna edit it, and things like that. And we've been ridiculed for it, and very much like the CIA coining the terminology conspiracy theorist to dismiss anybody that's looking at JFK suspiciously, and that whole situation. They coined this term anti-vaxxer to dismiss all of these parents. I mean, we have people who watch this show. One woman in particular had her little girl, I believe she was 4 years old, man, and she gets the and in like 7 days, her kid's gone. Yep. I don't mean nonverbal. I mean, she is deceased.
Bro,
and
I'll
now
tell you a
she's
story
looking
about
to people
this.
like us, and she's going, I'm so happy that guys like you are talking about it. And I'm like, guys like us? Why are guys like us talking about it?
I have some statistics on this. These are old statistics from 2017. Yeah, they're much, much higher now. Back then, in 2017, there were more than 7.2 million kids on psychiatric.
Wow.
This is in 2017. Over 622,000 of them are under the age of 5.
Wow.
We're talking heavy duty psychiatric. Over 80,000 of them were on ADHD, which is amphetamine. Okay. And I've talked to a number of prisons when I was working in the prison, and I said, were you on were you on the ADHD when you were a kid? And they said, yeah. And he said, I just kept going. You know, I felt good on those, so I just took more, went on the streets and got more until they lost control. And I've seen more people go psychotic on meth than any other drug that I've ever seen. Meth.
Yeah.
You know, they start hearing the voices and they think, oh, it's a hallucination and it'll go away when I come down. And it does. And it may do that for the next 10, 15, 50 times. And then one day those voices don't go away. And they're just as psychotic as any of the people in the mental hospital. The voices are stuck there. They don't go away.
Yeah, they turn on, and sometimes they just, once they get up to a certain level of strength, it's like, boom. It's like, hello. And then you can hear them almost, you can speak to them. They become channelers directly to the entities.
Yeah. Over 38,000 of them are on antidepressants. Okay. And a lot of these kids are under the age of 5. Right?
Imagine looking at your 5-year-old and going like, man, this kid doesn't pay attention.
Oh,
Better pick them up.
These psychiatrists will give to anybody who will take them. Over 85,000 of them are on antipsychotic. So you got a kid running around full of energy, getting in trouble, you know, doing. So they put them on these antipsychotic, which actually slowly destroys their brain. You know, they found that out, and the researchers who found it out published it because they were doing autopsies on long-term mental health or state hospital patients, and they found that their brains were shrugged like walnuts.
They were shrunk. And the irony is that they're called shrinks, the people giving them the
Isn't
drug.
that something? Yeah.
That's a demonic spell right there.
Yeah.
You
know, it happens slowly, you know, so they're causing permanent neurological damage. And they don't ever tell the patients that. I've never heard a psychiatrist tell a patient anything about that.
I want to tell you a story about that's kind of interesting. A lot of these they're giving people, these kids, they have in them. Okay, it's a metal. Okay, and the metal, they know, goes to the ends of the synapses of your brain, and it like caps off the firing mechanisms of your brain, and it doesn't necessarily leave your system very easily at all, if at all. And so this is going into people's bodies, and it's disabling their brain from properly functioning. And it's a metal. And the Bible in the book of Enoch, it says that the fallen angels taught men metallurgy, how to work with metal.
Oh, that's interesting.
And not only does this metal, when it's capping your brain, make you a sort of, metal in your body makes you a receiver, okay, makes you an antenna for something else, okay? So like there's the story of Lucille Ball, who got the metal, she got the filing in her mouth.
This is what
have you been watching our show,
I don't think he's been watching.
Oh, no. I talk about this.
This information we've been doing, we've been making the rounds talking about this, but that guy Andrija Puharaj, right? He's putting these fillings in your teeth, and they're causing you to pick up frequencies. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I think you're absolutely 100% correct. This is something that we've beat mercilessly to death on this show. And it bears. You're right. They're putting this thing that is a conductor of frequency that crosses the blood-brain barrier into your brain, so that you are now conducting these things that exist as frequency.
You're being a signal. Now, the entities, I believe, work off of frequency. I believe they work off of signal and frequency. And I think that those frequencies is the same thing as radio band. In fact, Nikola Tesla actually talked about in his notes that when he first invented the radio, he said he's hearing voices speaking in a language he does not understand. Now, there was no other radios in existence when he found this, and he was developing a frequency conversion listening device. It was taking frequencies from other sound waves and converting them into frequencies that he could hear. And when he did that, he heard voices speaking in a language he does not understand. Now, this is very fascinating.
Startling that must have been.
Oh yeah, for sure. But he just didn't know what there was. And then all of a sudden he's listening to them, and all of a sudden he starts inventing a bunch of crazy things. What do you think he was doing if he wasn't eavesdropping in on demonic or angelic conversations? That's my theory. But either way, the very thing he invented was called the crystal radio. And then right after that was Alexander Graham Bell said, oh, not only can you listen to them with Tesla's crystal radio, but I've developed the spirit phone, and you can talk back to these voices. So there was the spirit phone was one of the first invented devices of listening to these frequencies and these voices in languages that you don't understand, trying to communicate. And now we have those frequencies are banned. Okay. They're banned on the radio band. Okay. They stop you from going to certain ranges because they don't want you to get into these other frequencies that these people are potentially picking up on, which might be something akin to what these metal in your mouth and the blood in your brain is doing. But I'll tell you a very fascinating story was this little girl and she became right afterwards. Now, this is a crazy story. I don't think I've shared this on here, but I'll tell you what happened was because I prayed for this little girl and the demon spoke, and it was a very eye-opening experience. But the man said to his wife, "Do not get my daughter; she'll catch the." And she was like, I think she was 5 or 7 at the time, and the wife was like, "Okay, sure, I won't do it." Well, that week, he ends up selling a car to a Satanist. So these two Satanists came to pick up this old used car he had in his yard. And he just was selling the car. They just so happened to be Satanists. And his daughter came out and drew crosses on the car. And he was like, don't do that. They're obviously like satanic. They're wearing all black and have like pentagrams on their jackets and stuff. And he's like, don't do that, whatever. So he sells the car to them. And like 3 days later, they go, you know what? We don't want the car. We decided we don't want it. We want it back. And he said, I already sold you the car. Like, no, like I'm not taking the car back. You already agreed that it was broken. I showed you the parts. You guys got it. They said, okay, well, just give us back half of the money. We don't want the car. He goes, no, I don't want the car at all. It's your problem now. Like I sold it to you. It's your problem. And so anyways, they were pissed. Well, that week, his wife spontaneously decides to go get the daughter. Now, and then within a week after getting the daughter, so now the demonic people are mad, likely cast a spell, sent a demon out, influenced the wife in some capacity to go against what the husband said, which this is called a curse, and this is how curses work. And they happen to attach to you when you're disobedient, goes against the husband's order, goes and gets the daughter for school, even though he said don't do it. And then within like a week, the girl becomes nonverbal. Within like a week, dude. It was so prevalent. It was so fast. He was like, oh my gosh. And it just happened. He said that she just melted away like within.
Yeah.
And it was so fast. And bro, they called me over to pray for this little girl. And like, they told me the whole situation. I'm like, bro, like, okay, we got to repent for all this stuff, whatever, reject these things, repent for disobeying your husband and doing this, like let all this stuff go so we can break this curse, hopefully, and we can get rid of it. But they had like, the girl became like, almost like all she could say was hot dog. That's all she could say. Hot dog, hot dog, hot dog. And it was like, not even there, but like the little girl didn't really talk. And then I sat her down and I said, listen, I know you've got your family tricked. I know you've got all the people here tricked into thinking that you're some kind of mental condition and you're some kind of thing that they call, but I cast demons out and I know what you are. I'm saying this to this little girl and she's like, and I was like, I know what you are and I'm not tricked by this. And I said, and you're going to leave. And bro, the little girl looks at me and goes, I'm not leaving. And like all of a sudden the mom, mind you, the little girl don't talk. So the mom's like, what? Like she's like totally like, and the little girl licks her finger and draws a cross, an upside down cross on her forehead and stares at me and is like, bring it on, bro. It was like the most insane experience dealing with a child straight up that's nonverbal, starts talking to me and like is like, I'm not going anywhere. It was like, oh my gosh. So people think is like this condition that this child's brain is broke. Bro, I'm going to tell you right now, some of the stuff with ain't that. Okay, it ain't that. And some of it, they're listening to something and there is something influencing them even. Okay, so like I would even say there's some levels of that's really, really problematic. And I mean, it's not every case, but there's some people, your brain, yeah, sure, your brain's been damaged and you need healing and you need restoration. But some of it, bro, it's a whole nother thing. It's a whole nother level.
So we've been doing, I'm going to keep this abridged because I know our audience is like going to, we say the same things all the time. But effectively what I think is happening when it comes to the telepathy tapes is that they have created this nonverbal epidemic to create the ultimate dissociative identity disorder because your body is no longer cooperating with you, so you've become a bit of a prisoner in your own, and that could be because something else has control of you. But what you end up getting is telepathy, right, which is not anything new. In fact, it's probably what we were doing before the Tower of Babel. And so these kids, they always end up in touch with some sort of entities, and those entities are the same thing. The guy who was putting the frequency conducting material in the tooths. And then, well, he also was in contact with the Ennead, the 9. Yeah, we're filling in entire bingo cards on this one. Yeah, this is like greatest hits, Nephilim Death Squad's greatest hits. But he was in contact with the Ennead. So he's channeling spirits. They are the 9, the same 9 that ruled over Egypt, Set and Atun and all this other crap. And it's always the same kind of message too. And these kids in the telepathy tapes are telling you a very similar message. Even though they're nonverbal, they're telling it through, through guided typing or whatever it's called. And they're saying that we have to protect the earth and, we have to make sure that we take care of it. And every time somebody channels one of these entities, the ultimate thing is always the same thing. And it's what you get from like the Gates program too. And they put these kids in contact with like aliens, right? And the aliens always have the same message too. It's, there is a coming calamity and we have to avoid that and protect the earth, but we also have to ascend in some way, shape, or form. And then it just so happens that Elon Musk, who's everybody's favorite autist, who just patented or trademarked the words telepathy and telekinesis in association with Neuralink, the reason he wants to go to Mars is because he's worried of a coming disaster. We have to become a multi-planetary species because the Earth is going to be subjected to a polar shift. But these kids, the telepathy tape kids, I think it is kind of the fruition of that very program where we're putting metal in people's brains so they're obviously injured to the extent that their has made them nonverbal, which means you've got metal that's crossed the blood-brain barrier. They are conducting frequency. They are channeling entities. They can only communicate now telepathically. And I think it's like how do you make these kids the strongest channelers you possibly can? Shut down their physical function entirely. Don't allow them to rely on any physical sensation. We need it to be all spiritual, because they know that there's something here. They know they can put people in contact with these entities, but it's not enough. And if we want it to be enough, don't give them an option. They cannot interact with their physical bodies whatsoever. This has got to be all spiritual. And so now you have these telepathy tape kids.
The interaction with like through the idea of frequency, like you're capping these neurons on the brain with metal in order for them to be more perceptive to the frequency, reminds me of Dr. Jerry's story that you told us the first time you were on, where you hear this, you said like MIG welding static electricity that's crawling along the wall behind you. That's like frequency. That's metal.
Yeah.
It's electricity, right? Like
it's an odd, it's a crazy
like
overlap.
It sounded like a arc welder. It sounded exactly like an arc welder. You know?
That's like, that's like electricity manifesting in physical form, which would be similar to a frequency, which is just, it's the more you look at.
I didn't see any sparks. I just heard it, and it hung around for, like more than a minute. I mean, it wasn't just a short blurb. It crossed my entire office and jumped into the trash can.
Yeah, you weren't tuned correctly to hear it, but that guy was. You perceived it as crackling, like static crackling.
You know what that's
like? The guy
like?
perceived it as a voice, which
it's
is
like when you catch a radio station like in between.
Yeah.
And it's like distorted and it's all crackly and everything. But if you go to the next radio frequency, then it's all clear. It's like that guy was on the clear station. He's hearing it as voices. But yeah, to your point, Dr. Marzinsky's just hearing it as a distorted crackling.
Well, you know, now that you said that, I called him in, I think 3 or 4 months later, and I asked him, I said, what was that? And I said, did you hear it? And he said, yeah, I heard it, but I'm surprised you did. Which, thank God, because somebody else heard it. You know, I wasn't, because I was thinking I was going nuts, because I had 1 foot in each world.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like there was nobody I could talk to. I wish Bryan would have been around at that point. But yeah, there was nobody I could talk to. And when I asked him, what was that? He said, that was them. And I said, them who? The voices? And he said, yeah, those were the voices. And I asked him, I said, what in the blazes were they doing? And he said, they were trying to scare you off. And I said, well, they did a damn good job of it, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting that he refers to him as them too, because it's this concept of legion, being many, continually pops up.
You know, Dr. Jerry, I wanted to ask you before I forget, because this show is fascinating, but we had an email from a listener, said that he heard you mention one thing one time and never anywhere else. So I'm like, well, why not twice on this show? But he said, according to Dr. Jerry, he said one of the schizophrenics he was working with saw he looked around in the patient room. The guy then said that there were entities that were being assigned to patients as the doctors were diagnosing them. Is this a story you recall, or can you like?
Oh yeah, I remember that one well. It's a little different from what he says, but I know which one he's talking about. This happened at one of the major hospital emergency rooms when I was working psych crisis. Okay, and I come on to shift, and off to the left we had the psych office with here's all these computers lined up in there, and it was a sealed off, locked office where we could go in there and pull up the records of all these psych patients and then bring them into these interview rooms that had video but no audio. Okay, so as I'm coming into work that day, here's this young woman dancing around the middle of the psych annex doing these karate moves, punching and kicking and all this kind of stuff. And I looked at that and I go, oh, that's interesting, And, I walk into the psych annex office and the psych nurse says, you need to evaluate her quickly. She came in voluntarily and she wants to leave. And it's clear that she's not in good shape to leave. So I look up her record, and she'd been there before. She was schizophrenic, and I pull her in, and she's kind of agitated, and I ask her if she's hearing voices, and she goes, yeah, I'm hearing voices. And one of the things I was trying to do it because in the emergency rooms, they don't want the psych people working with people in the emergency room. They want you to get them out of there. So that's your job. That's what they're paying you for, is to get them out of there. They don't want you counseling them or talking to them or doing anything other than doing the psychiatric evaluation and making a recommendation to the doctor as to what to do with them. Either send them out, send them with their parents, send them into the psych hospital, send them to a mental health center. Just get them out of there. And that was their main priority. And I thought for months, like, okay, what can I tell these people that might give them half a chance to fight off these voices in the short amount of time I have with them? And there were two things. Is one, the voices aren't you. They're coming from somewhere else. They're not you. Even though they sound like your internal dialogue, even though they sound like you, they're not you. Their intent is different. Their motivation is different, you know. And secondly, is that they're energetic parasites. You know, they will drain your energy, and you can feel that, you know, after they come. And I did some research on that, and that turned out to be statistically significant. After the voices attack, the energy level of the person is way down, and it's a one-to-one correspondence. So it was those two things, right? So I bring her in. She's telling me, talking to me a little bit. And she says, I never saw more entities than I ever saw in the medical part of the emergency room. So this is where, see, I was in the psychiatrics, and that was psych stuff. And then right on the other side is the medical stuff, where they're dealing with people who are all beat up or broken bones and that kind of stuff. And she said, I never saw more entities than ever I saw in the emergency room where I just come from. And I said, oh yeah, well, what did you see? She said, I saw them. They were all over the place in the emergency room. And she said, I watched a doctor who was giving a patient a diagnosis. And she said, as he was giving this person the diagnosis, she said she saw black frogs flying out of his mouth and entering the patient. And then she looked up at me and she said, if the patient believes what he said, she will get whatever disease that he was talking
Bro,
about.
I gotta say something about this.
That's crazy.
That's what I was thinking.
That stuck in my mind, you know.
Bro.
And it went on from there. Go ahead, Brian.
I gotta, dude. Okay, so like I've experienced this several times, and I will tell you right now, I was told that the demons hang out at two places. They hang out at hospitals and they hang out in churches. Those are the two places where the demons like to hang out. And it's like they hang out around the churches because that's where the people are the most vulnerable. And they're the really powerful ones will hang out there. And so like they'll hang out in hospitals. And so people think you go to a church and you're like going to get rid of the stuff. But really, a lot of times you'll pick up other things when people are vulnerable. And it's different kinds of ones. They're more powerful ones that hang out in churches. They're not like the weak ones. The weak ones will go hang out in bars and stuff. But the ones that are really strong, it's like going to a church is like going to the gym for them. It's like literally like they're pumping iron, like learning how to evaluate this person's psyche and take advantage of it and control it. But like, dude, and I've dealt with people that have literally gone into the hospital for another condition and they came out with a totally different sickness.
Yep.
Because they and it happens all the time. The word doctor, I think it's doctor means to agree, actually. And so it's like, I think it's Latin in doctor. And so like, it's kind of fitting that we call them doctors. It means to agree. So like when you are coming into agreement with this kind of sickness or diagnosis, acknowledgement, okay? Death acknowledgement is what you're saying. Agnosis is literally you're coming to this agreement. It's allowing the entities to rest on you, to sit in you, to come into you. So like I teach people all the time, do not receive any negative thing. I have to constantly pray with people when they're like, I was told this by a doctor. I'm like, do you have the paper? I'm like, rip up the paper right now and renounce it. And I had to tell people to do this. And bro, they get healed and the sickness leaves when they come out of agreement with the understanding that whatever they were told they had has to exist. It has to be
That's
there.
so crazy.
You know,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I need to finish that story.
Yeah.
Oh, please do.
That's only the tip of it.
Okay,
So-
all right. Yeah, we'll save our interruptions for later on. Please continue.
So I'm continuing with her,
Mhm.
and you know, she was calming down, and she started telling me about her daughter, and her daughter had been sexually molested. Okay, and she had been sexually molested. So I asked her after she said that. I asked her. She said something about, and that guy got what was coming to him. You know, the guy who molested her daughter. And I said, what happened to him? And she just cracks this sly smile, like she doesn't say a word. You know, it's real clear that she polished the guy off. She killed him. You know,
Wow.
but she didn't say any words about it. And I was shocked. And she saw my shock. And it was so strange. So here's this schizophrenic killer that saw my shock at, she saw it registered with me that she had killed this guy, you know, and I didn't say anything. She didn't say anything. And with this complete compassion, she goes, you know, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to startle you, you know, just like she was really sorry that I, I was upset by this, you know?
Right.
So as we were moved on, I wanted to tell her those two things, you know, that the voices were entities and that they were parasites. Okay. Now, one thing I saw that they didn't like, they were okay with, like, okay, they're entities. They didn't want them to know that. But when you went to tell the patient they were parasites, they got very, very upset, you know. And that was the pattern. That was what I was just a little bit of concerned with telling these people that stuff in the ER, because when they heard that they were parasites, they would get upset. So I told her, I said, "Are you hearing the voices right now?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Okay, you're going to be hearing them in about 3 minutes. Okay. If you need to leave the office, I'm not going to bar you. I'm not going to stop you. The door's right there. Leave. You know, I'm not going to block you." I said, "Don't try to escape the ER because the police will get you and they'll strap you down. They'll drug you. You don't want to do that. Just go out and pace around. I'll get you later when you calm down." So I told her, "Okay, these things are entities." She took that okay. But when I went to tell her that they were parasites, she went nuts. She stood up and she got very agitated and she ran for the door. She left the office and she tried to get into the bathroom, which was somebody else was in there, and she started pacing around the office, or the psychiatrics, very agitated, you know. And the psych nurse goes, "Well, what did you do to her?" I said, "She'll be okay. Just give her a little bit of time, you know." And she came back in later and she finished that story. But yeah, and the one with the crackling, where I told you the crackling. Okay, what triggered that is I brought a book in by Miguel Ruiz, who is a South American shaman, and he was talking about these things being vampires or parasites also. So I was reading that paragraph to that schizophrenic guy that was in the office with me when the crackling started. And it started right at the point where I was telling him that these things were energetic parasites and that they were sucking his life energy out of him. That's when that crackling started, right as soon as I hit that part. So they don't like people to know that they are actually feeding on them. That's the last thing they want them to know.
It reminds me of a couple of things. Well, number one, John Galt in the chat brings up this Revelation 16:13. I'll pull this up real quick so you can read it from there.
And I saw frogs coming out of the mouth. 3
unclean spirits like frogs coming out of the mouth of the dragon and out of the mouth of the beast and out of the mouth of the false prophet. Interesting that it ties back biblically, but the curse from God to the snake, the serpent, is that he'll have to crawl on his belly and he'll have to eat dirt for the rest of his days on earth. And if you go back a couple of verses, a couple of scriptures, Adam is made from the dirt. So the curse is that entity, whatever that is, maybe the offspring of that or his ilk, have to consume in a vampiric way. Like the vampire has to have the blood, or that's the allegory. It has to have the blood to continue into his eternal life.
Right, but what's in the blood? The life is in the blood.
Right.
So when you're talking about sapping life force from an individual.
So it's like when you're saying that, you're touching on this weird, I guess you'd call it esoteric, because it's like this occult knowledge of their existence, of what they are. It's like
you look at Dracula and the vampires. I mean, that's tapping into what's actually going on with these things. I think that's why there's such a reaction to Dracula and the vampire kind of stuff, because it's actually happening at a spiritual level.
I think that is unbelievably true, and might be why I had that thing stop. Because remember, I told you that story. I have this dream about this demonic entity. My wife does, my son does, and it's all the same creature that we all see. And it's, very difficult for me because I'm now dealing with a toddler seeing it, my wife seeing it, and I've not even brought it to any of their attention. They're seeing it independently, and they're bringing it up to me. And I had this notion dawn on me that it was feeding off of the state of mind that I was in. That I was in a low place, that I was angry and I was anxious and I was depressed and I was sad and I had all of these negative, low vibrational sort of emotions pouring out of me for a long period of time, and that I surmised this thing was being fed, and that eventually I had fed it sufficiently for it to begin to manifest in some way, shape, or form. And that moment for me was a pivotal moment for me in my exploration and my journey towards the truth. I'd always been a conspiracy theorist, and then this was when I became. It wasn't like I became a Christian all at once. It was like, okay, there's something about the Bible, there's something about Jesus Christ, and I finally turned that corner and took what was previously years of research into like the occult and the esoteric, and a dismissal of Christianity. And I finally stopped the dismissal angle. And looking back now, I guess that would have probably been like 5 years ago or something like that, or 4 years ago. That was the turning point. It was a pivotal moment that led to like everything that we've built here today. And it was a realization that I was being fed upon by something, and that my only recourse was spiritual. And that was for the first time in my life that I ever prayed pretty desperately in the name of Jesus Christ to stop this thing from oppressing myself and oppressing my family. And that just keeps coming up, man. Like parasites, parasitic relationships, vampirism, the way that these things engage with us. And every time I think that I have it figured out too, by the way, where I go like vampirism is a euphemism or a metaphor, I'm like also not too sure about that. I think there are things that exist in a very physical way.
I think the vampire story is a way for like our ancestors to tell us this story.
I don't know, because I think something showed up to New Orleans on the Demeter, but
yeah, maybe
that's neither here nor there. But this thing that we're all orbiting, it's the nature of what these entities are. And it seems like if you can figure that out, if people, you talk about the way the medical industry just says you're broken. You have no agency. But if you can be cued into the fact that what is happening to you is indeed happening to you and not happening like in you or in spite of you or in spite of some broken mechanism within you, then you have that agency. And if you realize something is parasitic, it has a parasitic relationship with you, then you have a chance after you identify it to shuck it off.
Yeah.
And that is the huge thing that they have a problem with. That's why they don't want you interfering with their way of life. What is their way of life? It is that of a parasite. And as soon as anybody realizes that they got something sucking on them, that's one step closer to them peeling it off, and that's the
right.
end of it.
That's exactly right. You have to split it off because the voices want them to believe that what they're hearing is actually who they are. You know, and I've had several prisoners ask these voices, "Who are you? What are you?" And they would say, "We are you."
Yeah.
If they believe
Liars.
that, they're gone. And that's what psychiatry is doing. You got a busted brain that you can't do anything about. The voices you're hearing are hallucinations due to this fake that Eli Lilly made up back in the 60s. And they're pushing all this to make money. And
Yeah.
here's all these millions of people are suffering from this, and they're putting out this deceptive lies to feed their own pocketbooks.
Yep, that's it. It's a big industry, and it's, you know, my wife and I were talking about that today. It was like, you know, people suspect that can be cured, but it's not, because it's a tremendous industry. The maintenance of it keeps the money coming in, and that's what it's all predicated off of now. It's just profits over people, but even that's reductive. It's demonic. It's parasitic. It is the gigantic system sort of representation of this dark spiritual adversary of ours that you know, it's manifested as a big white building that, like, don't get me wrong, the emergency aspect, like we were talking with I think it was Matt on the Book of Daniel, or maybe it was Topher, whoever we were talking to, it was this idea of like the emergency aspect is huge. If I break my arm,
Oh, Ben Rawl.
was that Ben? That was Ben. That's right.
Yeah, listen, my wife worked in the ER, so it's like you need that.
Yeah.
Stuff happens, but
if I got a hole that's bleeding, I'd like it to be plugged.
Yeah.
You know, and stitched up. But we've taken that and we've expanded it, and we've taken a good thing and had some demonic force leverage it, and now it's our it's like our warden. You know, it keeps us pressed down and sedated.
Yeah, the psychiatric wants you to believe that schizophrenia and mental illness is due to some biochemical something, you know.
Yeah.
And spirit is never ever mentioned, you know. And in all the, what was it, 8 years of higher education in psychology and counseling that I've had, spirit wasn't mentioned even once. It was like the Gobi Desert of spirituality.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, you and don't even mention it. I was kind of shocked one day when one of the patients told a psychiatrist that I was asking questions about his voices, and he was upset. So he went and told the psychiatrist. I ended up in that guy's office the next morning with him ordering me not to ask any questions about the voices because they were hallucinations, and what I was doing was reinforcing the hallucination and making the patient worse.
And that's part of the agenda, because that man that was telling you that order was also being influenced by the voices, whether he realized it or not.
Yeah.
That was just the voices influencing that man to tell him to basically stop digging into this.
It's remarkable, though, because you look around at the industry and it's pretty obvious, even to the employees, like, we're failing these people. We haven't figured out.
Yeah.
But also we figured it all out, and there's no reason for you to start trying new methods of you know, healing people. Like, it's a ridiculous notion. It could clearly, there's still more ground to be gained. There's still more to learn. You have not solved the problem, but don't you dare step out of the boundaries of how we're supposed to address it, because we've already figured that part out. Like,
yeah, right. And if you do, you're a quack.
Yeah. And and honestly, like, there's, like, the thing is, like, when you test these things with certain, like, you know, Jerry, like, telling it's a parasite, or calling on the name of Jesus, or you know, commanding it like it is such, you know, like, you tell it, like, when I speak to him, I understand spiritual authority. So when I speak, I don't go off of, like, whatever the narrative is. Like, I'll look at the person, I'll be like, okay, like, that's cool. You've been told that you've been sick. And I was like, great. I'm like, well, let's test that. And then, like, when I speak and I test it, like, there's reactions. And it's kind of interesting, because once you walk into this reality, it's like you've stepped out of the Matrix. It's literally, like, the best way to describe it is like stepping out of the Matrix. Because right now, like Jerry, like, when me and Jerry both, I'm sure, had a similar experience of, like, when you come to that realization, like, this is real. It's hidden from you. It is hiding from everyone watching right now. You are being hidden from this reality until you step out, until you try to test it. And then it's like the floodgates open, man. It's like, bro, once you realize that this is what it is, oh, bro, the demons will talk to you through people. They'll start saying things like you'll see a whole nother side to our reality that we've walked into that it's just like it's so well hidden from the rest of the world. I never experienced anything like this remotely in my entire life until I started doing it. And now, bro, people can't even walk in my building, which I have that video that I didn't even show you. But like people will try to walk in my building, bro, and the demonic spirits will manifest. And like, bro, I
really think, Brian, you need to ask yourself if you should consider lowering your prices.
Can we
lower than free?
Exactly.
So we're at like 2 hours, but I do want to see the video. And I know Dr. Jerry brought transcripts. I don't know how much time you have or how much longer you guys want to stay, but how do you guys want to do this?
I got like maybe 30, 20 more minutes or so. I can show you guys this and
I have a 2.5 pages of double-spaced transcripts, which wherever you guys want to go.
Okay, let's watch this video. Let's look at these transcripts, and we'll get you guys out of here. I promise.
All right, let's bring up this video.
Sweet.
All right, here we go.
So this is a friend of mine's girlfriend who's sick. She has lupus. She has all these sicknesses, right? And she goes to church, and she's like, "I'm a pastor's assistant. I can't have demons. I've got the Holy Spirit in me." Okay, well, I'm like, cool. Well, like in the parking lot, she had a weird reaction, and then something like lifted her up onto her tippy toes and started dragging her away from my door on her tippy toes with her hands behind her back. Okay. And I'm like, okay, well, this is unusual. I ain't never seen this before. Kind of freaked us both out. I was like, I think you should come inside and maybe we should pray for you. And she's like, yeah, I think so. Maybe. Bro, this is what happens.
I promised her that I
Tries to walk in to my door.
If I again.
Dude, she can't even walk in the door. All of a sudden, her whole body just starts like. So walks in, the lights go out. She turns off the lights.
In Jesus' mighty name, you are not sick.
And so, bro, she starts like literally convulsing like this.
These are demons.
And we're telling him
You are not sick. And
she's
you
trying to be normal.
free.
She takes her hair thing out. She's like trying to be normal, taking her hair thing out. And obviously, like when there's guys and girls, we have to pray. And so like this whole thing just starts like her whole body starts convulsing.
What's
and
this
then
guy
right
doing
here
in the corner.
Well, initially he was like getting up, and then
well,
he was
he's the
you
boyfriend.
told him, like, read the
so
Bible?
I told him not to watch. So he's like just reading the Bible app on his phone. Mind you, like the spirit,
because he was getting up and he was like unsure, like he was concerned with her because she looks like she's having a stroke.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I'm like, bro, don't interfere. I'm like, do not interfere, dude, because it's not gonna be good for you. And then the demon acts like it's gone. Right now, here's where it gets real interesting. And she's like, oh, I'm okay, but I can hear in the spirit. And she's like, I'm fine, okay. And then she's like, oh, well, I'm like, say I'm whole, I'm well, I'm healed in the name of Jesus. She's like, I can say that. I'm like, well, then say it. She's like, I'm whole, I'm well, I'm healed. I'm like, in the name of Jesus, bro. That's her trying to say in the name of Jesus. She goes, I'm whole, I'm well, I'm healed. Like, bro.
Yeah, they don't want to say Jesus.
No, don't want to say it. I'm like, say it in the name of Jesus. Say it. You say you're healed and fine. Say it. Watch this, bro. This is where it gets real nuts. And then all of a sudden, her whole body, bro, and it starts moving unnaturally. I'm like, she said she can prophesy. I'm like, let her prophesy it over herself. Look at this. Look how she moves, bro. It's like, dude, she starts moving so unnaturally. Dude, it's... Mind you, I spill water there. Now, the thing talks through her mouth right here. But on the camera, you can't hear it talking. But on person, we all heard it talking. But on the camera, her mouth's moving. You can see her going like, la, la, la. It's like saying, I'm gonna you and you're all family, speaking through her mouth. But the camera won't pick it up. The camera don't pick this up. And so because it's almost like, I think what we're all hearing is psychological in our head, or it's spiritual. It's spiritual. So even though her mouth is moving, you can't film this kind of stuff half the time.
Like telepathy.
I've tried to film it. Say what?
You're hearing her telepathically is what you're saying?
I guess. I don't know, honestly, because it won't come up on cameras. I've tried to film it on cameras several times, and all you can ever get is like screams. But you won't get the spirits when they speak out the mouth of the person half the time. Unless the demon wants them to speak. But like, and then right here, we're praying. And then finally she says, in the name of Jesus. It says it. Sorry, pretty intense.
No, that's all right.
Yeah.
And bro, afterwards, totally fine. Like, and then she's just like, I cannot believe. She's like, I cannot believe I did that. My body. She's like totally fine afterwards. She's like, oh my gosh, I feel better. She feels healed, bro. Allergies gone, food allergies gone, lupus gone, sickness gone, disease gone, all of it gone instantly, bro. Instantly. Like,
boyfriend freaking out in the corner.
Oh, he was just like, what the heck?
Freaking out.
So anyways, that's it. That's all I'll show you that.
Wow,
but like,
man.
Bro, and mind you, she's like experienced this whole thing. She didn't even think she had a demon. She's like, there's no way I could have a demon. I go to church. I'm like, okay, we'll see about that. Bro, at one point, one of my friends walk in the building while this is going on, doesn't know her. I know who she is, but she never been to my place before. And so like, because it's my friend's girlfriend, but like our friend walks in the door. She doesn't know him at all. And in the middle of praying, she's like, ah, and he walks in the door. She turns and goes, you live at home with your mother and it makes you weak. As soon as he walks in the door, which is true. And we all know that. like,
it's true.
It's like what Dr. Jerry's saying, though. It's like they have access to this Rolodex of information in your head.
They know how to cut you.
They flip through it and they read it.
Wow.
He just walked in the door and is like, oh my gosh. We're like, yeah, bro,
Damn.
I think you should go home. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna go home.
That's what my mom
leaves. He's like, bro,
oh my god.
they know stuff. They know stuff about you. They know things about people. They know things about you. If you're not walking in righteousness, they'll call it out in your life, bro. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy what they can do.
And if
you believe the diagnosis, if you believe it and you receive it, the thing can affect you too.
Dude, this is an argument that I have with my wife constantly, where she's always talking about like her back and how bad it hurts, and it just seems to get worse and worse. But every time
terrible.
I get sick, and she's like, I'll like cough or something, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I'm crushing." Like, what do you mean, am I okay? And she was like, "I don't know. You seem like you're getting a little bit like sick." And then she's like, "You never tell me when you get sick," and I'm like, it's not like a you thing. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to sit here and go like, oh, I think I'm getting sick. I think like I'm not doing that because I think, I don't think too much about it. I just go like, if I start believing in that, then I'm going to end up being sick. So instead I go like, nah, dude, whatever it is, it's on its way out already. It's already passed. I'm already good. You know what I mean?
Dave, quick thing, man, before we move on to Jerry's thing. Z-Man in the chat wants to reach out to Bryan. Please do. We'll Bryan, if we can give him your email. I don't know, he's having some issues.
Z-Man is a real solid dude. He's been one of the longtime homies.
But I did want to mention in this chat the entire episode.
Oh yeah.
There has been, and it's, I don't know how exactly this right now we
DemonErasers.com, you can sign up.
Yeah.
Okay, DemonErasers.com. Go reach out to him there, please. But this is a private chat. These are for people that pay for the Patreon, and that's who's in the chat right now after the first 30 minutes or so of the show. But there have been comments that I've been blocking. I've been paying attention to the conversation. Just spazzing out.
Yeah.
The entire conversation that we've had here.
Of course they would be.
Never happened before.
Not to that degree. I mean, sometimes people get a little bit goofy, but that was like,
so it's like how
blocking, and they just keep popping up, and you just gotta keep blocking them. Like, people pay to come and like freak out and hate something.
But they've never done that before. But they're doing it right now. They're paying money to come here to say racial slurs at you guys or whatever, and just like disturb the chat, because the chat is focusing on this conversation. They're trying to like have a constructive conversation on what's happening here, and it helps us to see what they're saying. Maybe we can bring it up if it's relevant.
Shout out to Scott the Alpha. He is crushing the chat demons. He's been stopping them as much as he can. Yeah,
it's just bizarre. Like I'm noticing.
I know. I thought it was crazy too. I was
I'm
like,
seeing
geez,
it,
man. It's
yeah,
like distracting me a little bit. Well, all right. Let's get. I know we're crunched for time. Let's get into Dr. Marzinsky's transcribes. Am I been saying that correctly?
Transcripts.
Yeah, it's transcript.
Okay.
So, this is a guy. I think I might have brought him up before. His voices told him that there was a sesamolia pot field in Oregon. He's in San Diego.
Yes. Okay.
So they said get two burlap bags and a machete, and we'll show you where there's a big sesamolia pot field. Okay? So he's in San Diego. He takes he's got $250, $300 or something like that, and he's listening to his voices where to go. So he drives up to Oregon, and just they're telling him where to turn. You know, he's listening to them, just following. He trusts them. He gets on this big long dirt road that goes for like 20 miles, and then it runs out, and it runs out against the mountain. And he goes, "Okay, now what?" And they say, there's a hiking trail off to your left. Get your burlap bags and your machete, and just go off to the left for a while. You'll find it. Just follow it up the mountain for a few hours, and you'll find the pot field. So he goes and he does that, and he follows it up to the all the way up the mountain. Then he sees this giant pot field, and he goes, "Whoa, you know, it's true." And he gets his machete and he fills his 2 burlap sacks with all this sesamolia pot, and then he goes. So he asks his voices, "Okay, what should I do now?" And they said, "We know where there's a park where you can sell it." Okay? So the voices show him where it's a national park. Show him where this park is, and he starts selling this sesamolia pot, and he makes a lot of money. And he bought all the prostitutes he could handle. He brought all the cocaine he could handle. He bought all the alcohol he could handle. And he was having the life of Riley. And then the voices said they wanted to go fishing. And at that point, I went, "Yo, come on, you're pulling my leg now." He goes, No, they wanted to go fishing. They were fishermen. So he said he bought a fishing rod and bait, and the bait they told him to. And he went out to the river, and he was the only one catching fish in that entire river. You know? And they would tell him where to throw the hook, how long to leave it there, and when to move to some other spot. And so he did this for a week. He ran out of money. He went up and got some more sesamolia pot, did it again, and he was just all the prostitutes he could handle, all the alcohol, the cocaine. He was having the life of Riley for, his condition. And the third time he went to go up there, they stopped him. They said, "Don't go there. They're waiting for you. You go up there, they're going to kill you. They know you've been taking their pot. They're waiting for you."
Wow.
And so this is while I was working with him, and this is in October of 2002. I'll tell you what. Let me get my glasses real quick because this is very small print.
This is something that we've talked about on the show where like there's this precognition aspect to schizophrenia. I have seen it on Reddit forums where it was like, "Ask me anything, I'm a schizophrenic." And one guy in particular told a story about like being at a bus stop and he's just like plagued with this idea of the man in the yellow shirt. Long story short, bus finally pulls up, he gets on, it travels for a few stops, he's still hitting this man with the yellow shirt. All of a sudden, guy gets on, man with the yellow shirt sits directly shoulder to shoulder against him. And it's like innocuous stuff like that, right? But he was talking about how it did that with a bunch of different stuff. Just little things. Sometimes it was significant, sometimes it was insignificant, but the voices seemed to know what was about to happen.
They weren't where I thought I left them.
That's all right.
Okay, so here, this is the transcript. It says, "Inmate comes to the unit from another prison unit with a diagnosis of psychosis. All right. When I called him in, he appeared to be nervous. It was clear that life had been beating him down and he looked haggard. He was thin and hesitant to speak. I asked if he was on psych meds. He said he was, but it was a place to start." Let me see. He said he admitted to that. I said, "Do you hear voices?" He said, "Yeah." there was a guarded, he said there was a guarded response of no. So I could tell that he was not telling the truth, and he was progressively getting more nervous. Um, I said, it says on your record that you did hear them at what time? At one time. I said, when did they start? He said, when I was 13. I asked, did they start suddenly? He said, pretty much so. I asked, how did they start off? And it was obvious that nobody up to now had spent much time trying to find out what his world was like. And he eased up a little bit, lowered his guard just a little. And when I started talking to him, said, after all, we were talking about the past, and he knew I had his record. So uh, he said, they started off telling me to do little things. Did they eventually work up to telling you to do bigger things? He said, yes. I said, what were the things they worked up to telling you to do? He said, well, mostly they told me that other people were going to hurt me and to watch out for other guys. So they start telling them stuff like that to increase the paranoia. The more negative emotion they can generate, the more food they have, which is why they're constantly telling these people, you're no good, you're rotten, you're stupid, you're ugly, nobody likes you, your parents are stabbing you in your back, your wives are cheating on you. It's all negative stuff. It's nothing positive. So when they get them upset, they generate that negative emotional energy, which is called loosh, and that's what they feed off of. So that's why they are consistently negative. You know, they have a purpose for that. Okay, they told me other people were going to hurt me. I said, what did they do if you ignored them? He said they got louder, and that's what psychiatry tells them to do. Their hallucinations, just ignore them. They're not real. Every patient I've talked to who tried to ignore them, they said the voices got louder and more angry. So psychiatrists have no idea what these voices are. They believe they're hallucinations. They're the chief symptom of paranoid schizophrenia, and they haven't done one iota of research on them at all. They just wrote them off. Oh, they're hallucinations. That's what they are because we said so. There's no research at all done on them. You know, if they did research on them, they'd see they ran patterns. So he said, if I kept ignoring them, they got angry. They have not ever gone away for any length of time since they first came. They constantly bother me. I tried to kill myself 2 times. I asked him, how did you try to kill yourself and what happened? He said, both times I tried to kill myself. One time I went way out in the middle of the deep woods, about a mile from the nearest road, and hung a rope around a tree. There was no one around. I put the rope around my neck and was hanging when a hunter appeared out of nowhere and cut me down. So this happened to a lot of people. You know, some miraculous thing happens to them that stops them from killing themselves. I mean, the chances of somebody finding him at that particular moment were virtually nil. I said, what did you think about the timing of that incident? He said, it was a miracle. I said, did you get the feeling that someone or something was watching out for you? He said, yes. I said, who? He said, God. I said, do you believe in God? He said, yes. Did you make any other suicide attempts? Yes. What happened? He said, I tried to hang myself in the garage. What did you hang yourself with? He said, a nylon rope. I said, what happened? He said, the rope broke twice. I said, was it a thick rope? He said, no, it was a regular thickness rope, but it was old. I said, have you ever been sent to a psych hospital? He said, yeah, twice. I said, are the voices there now? He said, sometimes, but the medicine keeps them down. So that's what they do. They'll weaken the voices because they're major tranquilizers and they calm them down. You know, if that's not what the voices want. They want them upset and paranoid so they can feed off of that negative emotional energy. These psych turn them into zombies and calm them down. So the voices start losing strength because they don't have food. I said, can you tell the difference between these voices and your own thoughts? He said, yes. I said, who are they? He said, voices. I said, do the medications the psychiatrist given you weaken them? He said, yes. I said, are they still there? He said, yes. Then they come as thoughts and not as voices outside of me when I take the medication. Okay, so what I've seen is when the voices feel they really have control of the individual, you know, and there's no longer any doubt that they have control. They move outside of their heads and speak to them from a locus like a foot out, like outside of their head. And that's really spooky. It's at that point that the patient realizes it can't be them because now they're hearing it outside, and that upsets them even more.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him, I said, can you tell the difference between them and your own thoughts? And he says, it's confusing. I said, what do they tell you and what do they tell you when you're on your meds and they are not coming from outside of your head? He said, they tell me that people are out to get me and that those people want to hurt me. I said, and when you are off your meds and you listen to what they are telling you to do, how do they behave? When you do something they tell you to do and you got in trouble for it. He said, they laugh at me. They tell me I'm stupid. They like it. I wrote, this is real common with schizophrenics. The voices tell them to do something stupid. They get in trouble for it. And then the voices laugh at them and mock them. There's one guy where they told the patient that if you gouge out your eye, we will disappear and we won't come back. The guy gouged out his eye. As soon as he did that, the voices showed up and started mocking him and laughing at him and saying, look how stupid you are. Now you're a freak. Nobody will like you. Nobody will want to be around you. You're ugly as hell, you know, and they just started laughing and mocking him. So that's what these things are like. All right. And I asked him, they started mocking you for what they told you to do in the first place. And he said, yeah. I said, and what do you think these voices are? Or who do you think they are? He says, I don't know. I said, what is your gut feeling about what you think they are? And he answers, demons. So that's kind of, you know, when I was exploring, what are these things saying? How do they react? How do they behave? What do they do when you do this? What do you do? What do they do when you do that? What do they do when you go to church? What did they do when you're off your meds? What did they do when you're on your meds? I mean, this is research that freaking psychiatry should have carried out decades ago. You know, they will see, if they go looking into this, they will see that these voices run very clear, repeatable, specific patterns. And if they're running patterns, they can't be hallucinations like the psychiatric says they are.
You know, you mentioned the gut feeling the guy had, and I want to mention something because people are asking in the chat about people posting, I have multiple personality disorder, ask me anything, or I have, you know, schizophrenia, ask me anything. Bro, like you guys were mentioning that as well. You know, dude, that is so, like, why would you even, what would come to the idea that, like, I have schizophrenia, ask me anything, if it wasn't a demon giving them knowledge? Bro, you are channeling spirits when you ask those people things, by the way. That's called divination. That's called going to a medium. Okay, that's a medium, that's a psychic, that's the in-between. And yes, I will tell you right now, you guys might think that it's fake because you might be like, oh, these people are making it up. They are making it up to some degree. It borders the line of imagination and reality in some capacity. So the better the person is at hearing the thing, the more they can pick up on the frequency of what is true. But if they're not very good at it, then it will filter into what is imagination. So the more a channeler, this is the practice of what somebody that channels does. They learn to get better to where their imagination gets into sync with whatever the voices or the things that are giving them the messages. And so, yeah, sometimes you might hear somebody talking, it'll sound like totally nutso. And then sometimes you might get an answer that's like spot on and it's just unreal. Okay. But that's because the channeler isn't necessarily perfect with hearing these voices, but it takes time for that. But like, what a weird thing to get on and to be like, I have schizophrenia, ask me a question. Bro, that's literally a demon speaking, saying, channel a spirit, evoke a demon, evoke an answer from, do divination, go against God and see what we give you, see what we can tell you. And if you do that, it's going to open you up to something for sure.
Yeah, and Ouija boards are the same thing.
Yep, it's a Ouija board.
Yep, I've spoken to a number of clients that they started off with Ouija boards, talking to some spirit on the Ouija board, and then eventually that spirit moved into their heads. And it stayed there. You know, Ouija boards are very dangerous. They're not toys. They should be outlawed.
Yo, yes.
There's two different
I got a
versions of it
T-shirt.
though.
I got a T-shirt that says "Ban the Ouija board." And it's like
we should.
everyone wants to ban everything.
We
It's
should
like, how
start
about that?
like a what do you call that? Like you sign it.
Yeah, a petition.
A petition. We'll start a petition. There is two different versions of that. One is like this divination thing, right? Like ask me, I have the secrets to the universe because of the demons in my head. And the other one is like, I'm a schizophrenic. Ask me anything about what my experience is like. And that's the one that I found. And what that kind of speaks to is like what Dr. Marzinsky is saying is these are like nobody had asked that man these simple questions of, because I know what that's like. I have relatives that have schizophrenia, and like, you know, even from a child, it was just like, I was told like, yeah, don't talk to them about it. Because you don't want to feed into it. It was very much the same thing that the medical industry says. You don't want to feed into that delusion.
I think it's smart not to talk to them.
I see what you're saying with it.
I agree with that.
Asking.
But like, yeah, but it's interesting that these people are on the internet at all, and they're like, you know, I'm medically diagnosed, but whatever they haven't asked me has left such a feeling that, like, you know, I need to share. Like, nobody's asking me what it's like to be inundated by influences outside of my own body, and then, you know, gone through the medical rigmarole and dosed into oblivion. I don't know. I like to think that we're turning a corner soon, because it seems like the general consensus is everybody is on the same page. We are not handling the schizophrenia issue the right way here in the United States. These people are suffering. And I think if you just went around and asked people that, they would all say the same thing. I can't imagine that there's very many people that are like, no, we're doing a stellar job. So I do have hope that we're turning a corner soon. Maybe if these asylums get put in place, maybe if people...
I don't think so, dude.
Well, I mean, I can't... I'm not like a black pillar. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I just think that conversations like these are being had. Every time we talk to somebody who's got a show, they know who Dr. Marzinsky is. That's got to be a good sign, even though he says that, you know. But he's been talking for all these years. I think that this research is getting out, and I think that we're in this time where things are so strange. We're opting to finally go, all right, let's hear it out about the supernatural. Let's hear it out about Jesus Christ. That's what happened to me. Right. And I'm not saying that my personal experience is representative of everybody's, but I just have this hope that we're moving to a place where this conversation's being had. And it's like, man, Jesus made it real simple. You know what I mean? As far as like the path forward, like this repentance, this asking for forgiveness, this wanting to be rid of the things that you did, that you were culpable in, that led to this opening in the first place. You know, taking accountability for your sins, asking for forgiveness, and following Christ. Like, you know, and then if there's frequency technology available to these people, it's not a mystery. In other words, we see the way, and I don't know. I just don't want to be a black pillar. You know what I mean? Like, it's a sad topic, and it's a thing that is rotting in America.
I'm just saying, I don't think that the healing is going to come from these facilities. The facilities will clean up the streets for sure, but the healing is going to have, it's an educational process.
Yeah.
Because I think in the end of the day, you know, Bryan probably can attest that these entities are, you know, kind of pathetic, but if you don't know what is ailing you, you have no idea where to even start, or if you even should fight. Right. So that Dr. Jerry's, his role is like, hey, like, get in the fight. That's what he's telling people.
That's huge, yeah. If these people out there that are experiencing this could just hear that, like, this isn't you, you aren't broken, this isn't you are being attacked by something, and if you're being attacked, then you stand a chance of fighting back. If these things are parasites, then you stand a chance of ripping them off.
It happened to me. I told you the other night. It happened to me the other night.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. I don't know.
I don't want to talk about it.
No, I'm going to talk about it.
This show is about
talk about it off air.
Your experiences, not mine.
Listen, it's we're at the 2.5 hour mark. This has been an awesome episode. I didn't know quite what to expect when Bryan said, you know, let's have the both of us on. I just knew that it was going to be cool. I knew it was
like peanut butter and jelly.
It is. It's a winning combination. Dr. Marzinsky and Bryan of Demon Erasers. Guys, thank you so much for your time. Before we get out of here, let's remind the audience where they can find you, and we'll start with Dr. Marzinsky.
Okay, you can find me at jerrymarzinsky.com. I've got a channel with all the videos that I've done. I've got people who were schizophrenic and have recovered, saying so. Don't think it's impossible like the psychiatric is telling you. The people, lots of people have recovered from schizophrenia. You can't just sit there and take these. They're not going to cure you. They're going to reduce your symptoms, but they're not going to cure you. So then we got the MACE Energy Method available. You can access that through my website. Okay, and MACE is got a spiritual base to it. Kind of like Bryan's work. It doesn't work without that spiritual part. Okay? But you don't even need to be aware of it. It works anyway. And for people who've been traumatized, I don't need to know what the is. I don't need to know, when it happened, who did it to you, what happened. I don't need to know any of the details about the other than where it happened. And within an hour, we can get rid of that. It's gone.
You're
All
saying
the energy.
location based? That's how you're working here?
No, I'm talking about I don't need to know anything about it except where it happened. Because this is this is an energetic psychotherapy. It's not a talk therapy. It's very different. But I've never
That's
seen.
what I mean. Like where? Like the location that it happened in, or like
the location it happened.
That's interesting.
It's fascinating. When I saw it, I mean, there's patients I have now where it's gone. They're totally neutralized to the it's like they think of it now and it just, okay, I remember it, but it doesn't bother me at all. And I don't know what happened.
That's interesting.
It's a whole different approach. It's an energetic psychotherapy, and it wasn't invented by a psychologist or psychiatrist. It was invented by a ship captain in Australia who wanted to know how the mind worked and spent his whole life struggling to find how the mind worked. And he found, I think MACE could probably do 75% of what psychiatry does and do a better job of it.
Wow.
Now there are people where no doubt they're so out of control, they're so demon possessed, they're so crazy that the only thing that that will handle them are these psychiatric, but for the average person, I mean, MACE has a little bit harder time with schizophrenics than it does with other kinds of mental illness, right? It works great for depression and common type of psychological problems, relationships, that kind of stuff. Works great for that, especially. There's a little more time, a little more trouble with schizophrenics depending on how far gone they are. Okay? But it will remove the negative feelings and the negative self-concepts that these entities feed off of. So even if it doesn't get rid of them, it will take a big chunk of the food that they feed off of and destroy it, so they don't have access to it anymore.
Yeah,
I think it's the upcoming thing. I mean, this is cutting edge stuff.
It's interesting. There's different methods for different things. Like Jesus said, these ones can be cast out, but these ones you need to fast. It's like there's different methods for whatever specific type of entity. But Bryan, let these people know where they can find your work, where they can find you at.
Yeah, just demonerasers.com, YouTube, Demon Erasers, Instagram, Demon Erasers, TikTok, Demon Erasers, and and then at the bottom of the page there, it says no times available. Somebody just mentioned that, and so I was trying to fix that. I don't know why it says that, but that'll be fixed here in a second. There'll be more times available. So, but yeah, you just go to the bottom of the page if people need prayer and sign up, and then we pray for people every Saturday. I have a group of people that pray. And so,
awesome.
And that's free.
So, and it's free. There's no charge, nothing. You can just go on there, get prayer if you need some stuff.
Stickers,
the
stickers, that's going to cost you.
That's gonna cost you.
Yeah, if you need stickers, let me know.
You know what though? I love like ending a show like that with some solutions rather than just like it's all horrifying. It's just so nice to be like,
oh wait, can you ask them?
I'll ask him real quick.
Just quickly.
I this is something that we've started to ask at the end of every show, and it's always fascinating the answers we get back. Are you guys having fun?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so fun. It's so fascinating, the stuff you experience. It's like you're just like, whoa, like
Yeah,
that was crazy.
It's unworldly.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I don't think, honestly, like, I don't know if I could be a Christian fully if I wasn't doing this, because like, honestly, like, I don't know how some people are Christians and aren't involved in this. Like, dude, that's boring. Like, it's like, bro, when you start doing this, is like, you realize how like amazing it is, like the power of God, and you see miracles, you see people getting healed, and you're just like,
Yeah.
it's so rewarding when you know that you can heal people. Oh, it's like nothing else. It's like wow, like
It's a reward in itself.
Yeah, to watch people get free from stuff, bro.
Yeah.
Dude,
that's gotta be.
I prayed
huge.
for like a 10-year-old, not even like a few weeks ago or whatever, and like the 10-year-old got completely healed from a sickness that they were going in and out of hospitals their whole life. They were so profoundly healed. Like their people got on the call just to tell me thank you. Their grandparents did. They were just like, we don't even know what you do, but like whatever you do, they're just like, wow. Like it's so cool to see people get healed and delivered from this stuff, man. It's phenomenal.
I love it.
So yeah.
Remember, Brian, you got to tell them that's God, man. That's God.
That's right.
Oh, it's all God.
All
it's
God.
Totally 100%. It's nothing that I do. So like when people say thank you, I'm always like, thank the Lord. Don't thank me. Like, but like it's so cool still just to be a part of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
To see it, to be. I mean, yeah. Otherwise, what's the alternative? A gray, monotonous 9 to 5 in a box.
Faith without works. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But all right, guys, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for everybody listening. I hope you guys get something out of this. We're gonna get out of here now. But until next time, don't forget to obey, submit, and don't listen to the voices in your head.
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Goodbye.
The greatest hypnotist on planet Earth is a oblong box in the corner of the room. It is constantly telling us what to believe is real. You can persuade them that what they see with their eyes is what there is to see. You can't. Because they'll